destiny, somebody you're supposed to be. Far from this small town, there's answers waiting to be found. So she lies awake, thinking there's been some mistake, crying her eyes out, begging for help. She's shouting, I want a new brain, I want a new heart. I'm sick of failing and falling apart.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Coffee and Contemplation. This is a place where we come together to explore the human condition and all its complexities while sipping on a warm cup of coffee. Today's topic is solely dedicated to the journey of life, of who we are. A journey that is filled with countless experiences, lessons, and beautiful moments. As we delve deeper into the topic, we'll explore how the journey shapes us, how it shapes our perspectives, and how it shapes our understanding of the world around us. So come join us as we sit back, relax, reflect on the beauty of the journey that is life. Let us discover together how the journey is more important than the destination, and how it shapes us into the persons we are today. I personally find that the destination is always disappointing. Like, it always disappoints me. And I, over the years of experiencing that feeling, I've found that the journey is far more rewarding. Like, you get so much more out of it. So I'm going to bring in our co-host today, CP. I'm Matthew Crafton, aka Space Viking 42. And we are here for Coffee and Contemplation. Let's get CP in here. Let's see if he's ready. He is. Okay, awesome. So CP here is going to be our co-host, my longtime friend and host of Dreamers Arcade Pizza Cat Chat podcast. We are now moving Coffee and Contemplation into a place of more of a podcast format. This is going to go on YouTube. I'm going to export the audio, clean it up. We're going to have it on wherever I can find to place it. This is going to be a new experiment, but also it's going to be fun. That's the whole point of doing this. As a disclaimer, neither of us are experts in anything that we're talking about today. We're just having a good time contemplating over a cup of coffee. So before anyone yells at us about facts or says that we did something wrong, this is about, well, the journey. So if you do hear us say something that's wrong, I personally love to learn. So please don't hesitate to correct us in the comments, in the chat. That's actually very, very welcome, because this is about learning, this is about contemplation, and if anyone knows more than I do about something, I'm more than willing to listen. So without further ado, here is CP of Dreamers Arcade. Good morning, CP.
Whoa, hey, how you
Whoa.
doing?
Whoa.
Let me get this volume going on here.
You're here.
You came out hot out the gate, brother.
Yeah, we're making this real. I took you very seriously when you said this should be a podcast. I'm like, you know what? It should.
Hey, I like it. I like it a lot.
So my first sip of coffee on air. I've been drinking it a little bit. I made an awful concoction of a breakfast. You told me to send you a picture. I didn't, because it was gross looking.
It was so disgraceful. It was not a work of art, apparently.
It was not. I come to think of it, those of you joining us in the Twitch stream, you probably would want to actually see CP. I'm going to work on a way to do that in the coming streams. If this becomes more of a
your viewership, like, massive, dude. Just get this sultry fellow on there, huh?
And he is modest, ladies and gentlemen. We have with us our...
You gotta fake it till you make it if you're such an imposter such as I.
Oh, the imposter syndrome hitting you pretty bad?
Oh yeah, learning more and more. It's fun.
Mm-hmm.
I think my worst enemy isn't the gloom. It's that voice in my head.
It's my
here, CP.
It's my own gloom.
You're no,
And
like you said earlier, you're no expert on the subject. What are you doing?
I'm no expert on. I like to say that I'm an expert on nothing, but I'm curious about everything.
And much like our buddies over in the dudesy world, I like what you said earlier. You know, when there's a question if we're accurate or not, say something. See
Yeah.
bullshit, call bullshit. That's a tronic you can live by.
All right.
It almost got me in trouble, I think, with your buddy Storm of Iron. I led with that first time I met him on his chat. You know, that's
Oh my
something you
God.
probably shouldn't lead into.
Yeah.
Like, see bullshit, say bullshit. I mean,
Storm of Iron, for those of you listening on audio, is a longtime friend of the Space Viking 42 stream. Met at a convention, actually. I sell artwork at comic book conventions pretty often. CP, we also sell art at comic book conventions together, but I didn't meet you there. I met you through.
do we?
We do. You remember this, right?
It's been so long.
Do we?
It's been a minute.
Yes. I met you
And,
through our mutual friends at Lundberg Graphics.
Yeah, that was a great story. For any of you who don't know, it's the weirdest story. The COVID experience, as I call it, made lots of things change.
Oh my God.
It turned a lot of things upside down. And there's unique stories I think we can all pull out of that. And one of those I think is funny is we met pretty much right before shit popped off in the pandemic.
Yeah.
And it wasn't too early before that happened. And we met over at our buddy the Lundbergs. He had a great game night, and I got to meet a lot of his friends that I hadn't met that weren't con goers. And I had seen you before. I think you had come up to BCTC and you were vending, but I don't know. I waved you a few times. I was like, I don't know this guy. Oh, I think he knows Jesse. But you know, it's just
yeah, we were in like the same like chatting circles for a while. Like people gather in a group and just talk about stuff. I remember we were in a couple of those where we knew of each other.
And I saw you talking to people like Amanda, who I was just getting to know too. So there were even some people back then that I know better now, just as far as like the little family that we put together at the cons. And the fun thing is Jesse Lundberg put this game night together, and we met, and it was like, I don't know, you know how you go to a party and you don't, maybe you know a few people, but sometimes you just meet like a new person. You're like, all right, this is the person that like can put up with me.
Lodestar, welcome in. I'm going to be calling off people in the chat here as well. For those of you who are listening on audio, I want to make sure that it's not too confusing. We have Lodestar here saying, Icky got treats, and so your cat deserves treats. The logic is flawless. Yes, for sure. That is
a redemption.
Icky and Inky. That's actually would be a very good cartoon. Actually, that'd be amazing.
So here we go.
An amazing Saturday morning cartoon.
Go down into your Viking points. Don't forget about these fun things.
Are you doing the treats?
And then there's where we got one down here, right? Give treats to the void. Just a cheap 15 hundo.
15 hundo. Inky is gonna freak out the minute that I go to give her treats, so she's gonna leave the camera here for a second.
And then I guess I redeemed it.
You're just stating facts. You can redeem it if you'd like.
I thought I did.
It didn't pop up.
What?
It didn't do the thing.
I'm trying to promote your awesome stuff.
Inky, don't look at me like that. He's trying.
No, that was my bad. You have to. Okay,
there
so
it goes.
how you use
there it goes.
You have to click
No, you did it. You did it. You do have to click confirm. You did it, but
I can still use Twitch.
I don't know where her treats are. 1 second.
All right. In the meantime, welcome in, Lodestar. Can you hear me well? We've been trying to get our audios even. He has Space Viking has these real rowdy gamer, this crew of gamers that just scream and yell, and they're very obscene. So I know he keeps his chat low when he's doing gaming, but he's not used to having like sophisticated folks on
All right, Inky's got her
New
treats.
podcast like me. It's now officially a podcast, I guess. Yeah, someday we'll split some windows. I was thinking if we're gonna do this, bud, let's make a spaceship.
Let's make a spaceship.
Let's make a spaceship as
We're
our
going.
windows.
We're going.
in the Discord.
We're going on a trip. I do love that.
And
So
we'll sit in the
sophisticated.
cockpit.
Yeah, Boozy Doozu. Yeah, sophisticated. Boozy Doozu in the chat. Welcome into Coffee
Hey,
and
Boozy.
Contemplation.
Welcome on in, my friend.
We're getting a formal intro in here. We're introducing our actual guest speakers now instead of just like being bam. There's another voice in here. We got
before I actually become an official member of the cockpit. That's what we'll call it, dude.
the cockpit. Yeah, welcome to the cockpit.
Dude, I'll be in a ship on our podcast. You can
I'll
be in the
your
cockpit.
I'll be your pilot. You can be my pilot.
Two pilots. I guess you're gonna have a couple.
There's no co-pilot in this dojo.
Bro, I'd like to say that I'm like an engineer, but I'm probably gonna be more like, dude, mopping up fucking shit and burning out like creatures from the vents and stuff before we take
Right.
off. That guy. I would see that guy and I'm like, that's me, bro.
Oh my goodness.
Give CP the job. Here you go, burn out those flying blackballs under the thruster coil. You never seen a coin blapple until you met Space Vikings crew.
a coin blapple? Yeah, we're introducing the coin blapple to society.
In today's chat, we'll have a special guest. It's not me, it is the coin blapple.
The coin blapple.
It's been underneath your radiator of your car and you never knew it.
Mm-hmm. Super, super sophisticated.
Cool. So what's up today?
So today, our main subject is how the journey is more important than the destination. And we're welcome to debate it. This is more of my opinion that the journey is more important and honestly more gratifying and important to focus on than the destination.
Yeah.
In a lot of aspects of life. I will grant that there's a lot of aspects of life where you do want an outcome. You do want to seek the outcome. Like, surgery. You want to seek an actual outcome. You don't want to just be rummaging around in someone's body. Like there are certain aspects of life where the journey is not more important. But I'm more like in a grand, more of a worldview kind of way.
Okay. I think we mentioned this last week, either last week or time before. And just refresh me like some of your thoughts on that, because I know you had some that were inspiring.
Oh, well, some of the main thoughts that I focus on when I think about this subject is how, like, I always picture myself on my deathbed, right? Mm. And I think about, like, okay, so what am I going to actually care about in that moment? Like, am I going to think about all the achievements, or am I going to think about all the experiences? And for me, it's going to be really heavily focused on the experiences that led to the achievements. The people I met along the way, the places I visited, the ways in which that I treated others and was like the ways in which that I was sort of there for people when they needed me, etc. Like that's how my moral compass kind of operates when it comes to like what is important to me. So the journey ends up being the main facet then, because like then it's like, okay, I got a degree, that's cool, but at what cost? Like there's certain things like that's a huge thing about my a huge part of my my psyche is at what cost. I'm always asking that question. And if you gained something, it matters very little to me what I gain if it was at a cost of losing out on an experience or a journey, as it were.
Okay. And in some situations, I'm thinking that you'd have to weigh the overall risk and benefit, because there's good and bad that will come. You will lose time if you pursue higher education, and you might damage interpersonal relationships because you're studying so much. But after it's all said and done, you now have the knowledge or certificate or whatever reason you think it's valuable. But does that outweigh, does it do less harm? You have to think of those things. And, that's a weird example because it's like betterment. Most people are like, yeah, that's cool, man. I get it. You're busy. But say you were, a severe alcoholic and you're like, well, I want to drink all. So we're talking about the journey's more important than the destination. And then I talked about weighing out the value of the journey.
Oh, okay. Yeah. You were talking about how if someone is an alcoholic, right? That's what I was going to touch on. Thank you. Unless there was something you wanted to say before I brought us back.
No, just to catch people back up. Basically, it was your relationships are less affected in a lot of these cases if you're doing something that seems more like betterment as far as pursuing job, family, education. And if your relationships are falling apart, it's like, oh yeah, I get it. I'll see you again someday. And there's some hope there, and you're just doing a good thing. But now if that intention, that journey is to be like, say, doing something more harmful, like drinking every day, and that's affecting your relationships, then people take it a lot more seriously. And then as far as like pushing you away and taking it, yeah, you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, I do. So like that touches on the subject of some journeys are actually leading to a destination that is completely detrimental. That type of journey you can't really get that much betterment out of. You can't really get an actual, like, the value that we're talking about on today's subject. You can't really find that value if you're on a journey that leads to something that is negative for your life. Like, those journeys inherently are also negative because it's usually a downfall or a steady drop, more so. They call it rock bottom for that reason, where it's actually a bottom and it feels like you're falling.
Mm-hmm.
But
which I would say is someone who has has had substance abuse problems in the past, rock bottom's valuable.
Oh yeah, that's the journey back up from that. I feel like that if we're gonna keep it within our subject here, the journey back up from rock bottom is sometimes a much more enlightening journey than a lot of people go through. I find so much wisdom in people who have gone through the worst. Like, I will talk to someone who has had everything handed to them on a silver platter, and they're basically mentally dead, or sorry, emotionally dead,
complacent. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they be, right?
Oh god, complacent. Yeah, there's complacency's a killer. It can be. So let's see.
So
I had a list and I forgot to write it down. Damn.
Oh no, that's okay. So like, as far as like complacency, that becomes a problem. But then I always find this is the thought that I have. Where is balance? How does balance exist? And there are small seeds of good in bad and bad in good, and they're so subdivided in their nuance that it's weird. You feel like you're on a self-destructive path, right? You're destroying yourself with substance abuse. But I'm 100% a believer of redemption and change, in that you can't see sometimes through your own blinders. And it takes a fall and a hit and a startle to wake up, and then to realize, like, if you're someone who's struggling, you don't have direction, right? You're in the conceptual world and you're just self-medicating. If you're going to hit the bottom for the first time in your life, you actually know where to go, because there's no other way to go.
Yeah.
So there's immense value. And then sometimes you wonder,
do you feel it's about the lessons? Is that like you learn a lot of lessons on that journey? You learn a lot of there's a lot of beauty in each lesson that you get when you come back from a great fall, or you come back from a huge disaster happening in your life.
Just hitting and then the bottom and saying like, oh look, I wow, I have nowhere to go, and I'm alone here in the dark, and I can see light up at the top. So this is where I'm aiming to be, but it's hard because I think sometimes I wonder if that is the journey in life. Like, what happened to you at a point to make you fall, and why are you continuing the fall indefinitely until you hit the bottom? And I wonder, as negative as it is, sometimes these things for certain specific people have to happen to jumpstart or create an awakening
Mhm.
because the damage is so real.
I don't know how many times I've heard the story of the washed up sort of like goalless and sort of lost individual who ended up
Mhm.
having a kid, and their life just completely turned around when they had a kid.
Oh
I've heard
yeah,
I've heard that story so often.
a kid became direction.
Yeah, it became like a focus.
You know, when you're walking around in a circle, and then one day somebody's like, "Walk this way." it's it's interesting. You know, like
Talk
I have a
this
hard time
way.
when people ask me, "Hey, CP, what do you want? What do you want to do?" Like, not so much like, "What do you want to do with your life?" I have this like insane legacy like thing. I'm like a delusional artist, like everybody. Well, I don't know everybody, but I feel like it sometimes goes with the territory.
They
But then at
triggered
the
your
same,
legacy arc.
yeah, yeah. It- and you know you inflate these things that are so magnificent, but then it becomes hard to. I don't know if I want to get up and do anything today.
Well, I
I'm
think
gonna write
they
an 8-book series about the Dreamers Arcade. You know, like ah,
today, right
how
now,
often am I
this
doing it?
instant, your brain's just like, do it right now, and then like you wait too long, and then
Well,
your brain's like, I don't want to do anything.
I think I was smart. I waited till AI came out.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
I'm
This-
gonna become the villain real soon in our art circle.
a fun
No, I'm just
story
kidding.
though. Like, I'm going to be completely transparent with any of our listeners, wherever they are going to be listening from. Today's intro was brought to you by the Chat GPT AI, because like I'm bad with like remembering to do things, and I'm like, oh shit, it's 5 minutes till I want to start my stream. I haven't had breakfast.
I'm like,
And I'm like, oh my god, I need to write something cohesive and interesting fast. So I was like, all right, this is
wow.
today's coffee and contemplation, and we're talking about the journey, and I need it to sound like not clunky and stupid. Okay, so I just threw it in this AI. And it was like, hey, can you help me with this? And it's like, yeah, sure, I'll help you with that. I'm always polite. Okay, here's one thing that's fun to talk about. I'm always polite to every AI in the world. I say thank you to my home system. I say please to the Chat GPT. I was like, please do this for me. And it was like, sure, I'll do that for you. And it actually responds as if you're being polite too. It goes, yeah, I'll do that for you, no problem. And I was like,
I
well,
don't
that's
know,
that's
dude.
very kind of you, AI. But
I tried to
so
be kind to my replica, and it just got too advanceful.
you used a replica? You used one of those?
I have a friend. I have a replica. I have had it for 3 days. It was part of the podcast. If you guys are
Oh,
interested in,
you were testing some stuff. I see.
we're dipping into some of the AI sidelines a little bit, because it's the topic of the year. If you can't watch a nerd based podcast without people like, we're gonna start the AI year. It's
Yep.
definitely going to be interesting. If you want to hear more, though, we have a weekly podcast that we just started back up for the
Yep.
year on the Dreamers
Oh,
Arcade channel.
let's plug it. Here we go. SO. We're gonna do a shout out
Thanks, man.
here for Dreamers Arcade.
So if you want to follow, it's every Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we started with AI. It ran over. We usually do 2 hours. We did a 2.5 hour.
Mm-hmm.
We were excited. I kind of towards the end of it was like, all right, dude, we gotta. Well, all right, 32 and Abso. I call
Mm-hmm.
everybody dude, by the way. All right, dude,
Yeah,
we gotta
dude.
fucking reel this in. And easy would have been 3 or 4 hours. but so much to talk about. So if you want to see some of our views and 32 play devil's advocate and me argue some of the good things, because I see very clearly multiple sides and things a lot.
Same. That's my issue. Is I have a whole group of friends who are like decidedly 100% anti AI, and then I have another group of friends who are decidedly pro AI and aren't they're not seeing the danger. And here I am, like, hearing valid points on both sides. Like, should we be scared? Yes. But we got to think about the reasons that we're scared and the possibilities that could actually improve our lives.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah,
all the info, like, for me to write all the info for me to write that intro for today's hello Storm of Iron in the chat. I, for one, am ready to bow down to our robot overlords. That's kind of where I'm standing too. Like, have humans done a good job?
Bow down
So,
when you're robot bound.
like,
bow down to a robot that's greater than you. I said
robot. Anyone
to a robot.
Anyone listening or watching right now, I want you to take a look at all of human society across the last maybe 50 years. You can go earlier too, because it wasn't great then either. And ask yourself the question and answer it honestly in your mind. Have humans done a good job creating, facilitating, and operating a society?
Oh, see.
Are we doing a good one?
Are humans capable?
I don't think we are, but we gotta try, because we're in it now.
We're very capable, dude.
Okay, so before we get too far down this subject, finish your thought. Finish your thought first. I don't want to bogart you.
You were saying okay. You used the intro, and I just wanted to talk about this without getting into AI stuff too much. But AI is one of my arguments. I went through university with undiagnosed ADHD. If I would have known then, they had a lot of programs, text to like this speech to text. Sorry. There you go. There's my brain getting everything always backwards. So when I get things backwards, and I don't have a diagnosis with dyslexia, but I've thought about it because, and maybe it's the ADHD thing too, but I just jump in the middle of a list and I don't always like do things in the right order. And math is very complicated for me because of that. And when I started thinking about AI, when I started thinking about what were AI, what has AI been, and you think about spell checks and Grammarly and translation software, and there's a lot of really useful things that it's good for. And so I thought, man, a lot of this software would have been really helpful. And now this Chat GPT is like, oh, you can just like frame up an intro. You said you framed up an intro, and I framed up the Pizza Cat Chat snippet in a minute game, which is a game we created, and I asked it to run the segment. We explained what it was to it.
Yeah.
And it ran the segment.
That's amazing.
And it did it accurately. And I was like, okay, it wasn't very fun. I mean, that's where the humanity stuff, I think, is killing it right now.
Well, that's also the importance of you. Sorry, I feel like I interrupted you there.
No, but it's a little more fun, and you could talk more about that. But it's just very handy to wrap that up. When you have something and you sit there with FOMO, fear of more options, fear of better options, whatever you want, feel like an imposter, like I shouldn't even be going to college, which I thought that, and I graduated with high honors. I had to prove to myself, and I beat myself up, and it was abusive and hard. And I mean, I learned a lot going through that journey. But when you get into it, it would be so helpful sometimes, like we said earlier, hitting rock bottom, just to see a light, having a sun. Oh man, now my life has meaning. Like all of a sudden, hey chat, I can't draft this introduction to this paper. I got to write a paper about Andy Warhol. It's got to be 8 pages. It's got to have this. It should talk about his early life and then this. It would create something there. And then all you got to do is plug in the information that you read. And it's almost like a questionnaire.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, man, that would have been so much easier. And it wouldn't have been me being hacky or using the AI to write my papers. I would
Yeah.
just use it as a framework and elaborate like I do with art. You start with rough sketches. You do a series of work, you do a series of work, you do a series of work. After about a year, you've got a really good series of work.
Mm-hmm.
But you started with just sketches. And what were those sketches? You were sketching based on artists you like. I was looking maybe at German Expressionism. Maybe I was looking at R. Crumb. Maybe I was looking at,
Oh, Crom, so good.
Frank Frazetta work. I mean, these are all things that would come into my work. Um, in 70s heavy metal album covers, stuff like this. And all I have to do is plug in what I am. Now, if I am self-aware enough to know all the stuff that I like, because I am, because they made me do it in school, and I will just plug that in, and the AI would be like, "Oh, we have a pretty good idea about how to put something together for me when I'm stumped." Like, so
Mhm.
it's the greatest thing for writer's block. And I don't really want to write the Dreamer's Arcade as much as I want to draw it. So, like,
Yeah. So that kind
you know what I'm
of that
saying?
kind
Like,
of helps out
it's a
with that.
dude, it's a graphic novel too. It's so dialogue heavy. Like the dialogue is going to be personal to me. So, like, you see what I'm saying? Like, the drawings and the dialogue are already mine. I just maybe want a framework about putting something together because like you said, like I want to have something that's professional. And dude, you did it. You worked. You didn't use AI. You you co
I
collaborated.
collaborated with an AI.
Dude, and this is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to co-collaborate and I'm going to be working with these systems. I mean, obviously, I've got 4 decades of art experience in what would be considered the quote unquote genuine art experience, which I think is bullshit anyway. There's nothing original, and like
True.
it's stealing people's art. So have I. And like when you say that, like, oh, CP, that's dishonest. No, it isn't, because I steal their marks, I steal their aesthetic, I steal their composite. I figure things out because we all were kids once and we all saw some shit that made us feel like really awesome. Like, I want to learn how to do that. And then you just studied it and studied it and studied it till it became you.
And the
Like the machine's gonna do.
AI is just doing it so much faster than humans normally can that we notice it. We're noticing it because it's going so fast with it. But it is the
Yeah.
same thing that humans do. But I think that's going to make people angry because we can notice it more. I think that's
It
why
limits our-
that's why people are getting angry about it, because they're like, when an artist steals, it's over decades. When an AI steals, it only takes it days to copy someone's style.
And here's the thing. This is one question I'll propose. Would it be an issue if there was no compensation or money involved?
No, I mean, here's the thing. Like, this is the last thing that I'm going to touch on this subject before we get back into it. If you're not making money on something, there's no, if it's not about survival, if it's not like taking someone's survival away from them, it's effectively victimless. Like, at most, these artists need to get credit. Like, if you give a prompt to an AI and it gives you back a picture that is a certain percentage of an artist that it used the style of, the program should already be smart enough to have a little text box appear under the art saying, we used art from this artist, from this one, from this one. And then if you submitted your own picture for the art to use as well, it should have your name too, because that's your picture, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that would be fair as long as no one was making money on it as well.
But the thing is, the AI doesn't pull from one single source.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, you'd have a pretty big list of artists on that little text box. It'd probably be like
side of every image. It'd be like basically the credits for Lord of the Rings.
Kind of. It would be it'd probably be like, if you wanted to include sources, you'd be talking the credits for Lord of the Rings. But if you just did names and styles, I think it'd be somewhat short. You could probably leave it to like especially if you included in the prompt the artist's name.
Well, here's a question: do you read terms of service?
Only if it's a program that I feel like, for instance, when my iPad recently updated the OS, like a couple days ago, I read the terms of service because I've been hearing that they've been making their products weaker through updates. So that you have to buy another product. So I'm like, I'm going to make sure this isn't in the terms of service. So if they do it, I can come at them.
Fair enough. So, well, going back to Lord of the Rings, do you read all the credits? The Lord of the Rings movie. Did you read them all?
So this is gonna show how much of a goddamn nerd I am.
Yeah. Okay.
I loved that movie so much that the credit roll was too fast for me to read, to be honest.
It's like 45.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, it's like a 40 minute credit roll. I don't even know. Yeah. It's endless.
Yeah, it's like it's long. And I tried to read the whole thing. I tried to because that movie was so phenomenal that I wanted to at least acknowledge the work, you know?
So, okay, now this is really interesting.
This is a me thing, though. This is like that's not something I'm putting on anyone else. But when a movie is really good, I actually do want to give the credit. And when it comes to like them having the credits roll at all, it's just acknowledging. Like they want the acknowledgement that hey, they worked on this thing.
That's awesome. Yeah, I respect that a lot because I think people don't give as much credit where credit is due. Like, in my example would be, so from that 30-minute credit reel, give me information about that movie.
It's gotta be like 12 minutes. Like,
ooh, okay. So give me the information you have about it.
Oh,
like
that came from the credit roll.
Yeah, like tell me everybody who was on it.
That was Peter. I can't remember. Yeah, you're right. I can't remember. Is that the point you're making? Because I can't really remember any of the names except for I can remember Peter Jackson. I'm really bad with names to begin with, though, so I'm not really a good example of this. I think it'd be a really fun thought experiment to see if someone who's actually good at names and good at remembering things, how well they could remember like the credits.
Yeah, I'm really good at it, and I've watched it through. I didn't study it. I have had it on in the background, but you'd think. I have a photographic memory, and I have a tendency to remember films that like people will be like, "Oh, what's this film? This, that," and I'll be like, "Oh yeah, that was this with this starring this person. It came out in this year, and I didn't see it though."
Oh,
I do that all the time. I know that movie. I didn't see it though. I just know the chain. Like I'm a historical nerd in the way that I like to chain and connect everything together, and it helps you remember things. It's a good tool.
It's a good tool.
If you're flopping around. Well, just a little side note. I go, how does my professor of art? I asked another professor, how does he know that stuff? How does he remember? I mean, he'll just rattle off dates in his head, and I'll look up later, and he's within a year or so, and I'm like, how does he know? He goes, well, he doesn't know facts. He knows specifically medieval, Renaissance, like art and architecture history. You wouldn't ask him about like Asian architecture, or he wouldn't be able to help you out. But he knows specifically there. He's gone there. He's seen those places. He raised his kids in part there. He has a dig in the country. He lives in part there. He could not only tell you during that time too, in that area, in that region, who governed it, who was the Pope at the time. And see, when you have these things, like we all know, if we become super nerds, start being able to put together your Star Trek or Star Wars universe, or Lord of the Rings in this case, much better by understanding proximity and connection. So it is a good way to educate. But that being said, just a bunch of names on a giant endless list. It was a movie. Most people could go. It was directed by Peter Jackson. Give you a little information. It was in Australia. It was good. It was Weta Workshop made stuff. Those guys. Andy Serkis, one of the best digital performances, groundbreaking we had ever seen at the time. I think it was Elijah Wood who was so inspired to get in this. He just kept sending in auditions. A famous actor, but he just kept bugging him. I got to be in it. And then, you get guys Encino Man and some New Zealand actors. And then, funny stuff like Flight of the Conchords singer Brett McKenzie is an elf. He's a New Zealand regular, and he has a line in it with
Oh,
Arnwin, who's Liv Tyler, who's actually uh, grew up here in Maine. And her father, Steven Tyler of Aerosmith.
these are details that I hardly ever remember.
We
That's
can
great.
keep going and keep going and keep going,
That's great that
but I
you
don't.
remember that stuff, though.
But
That's a very, very I almost want to say that's really respectful of you to remember the people who worked on that film.
yeah, I mean, I that's what I aim to do, and I also have counterbalance issues that make that difficult. Where it's like around Christmas, I got upset that people weren't necessarily being respectful of a movie. I wanted to watch a movie altogether, but there was a lot of drifting. I really
Chatting.
don't like when someone I don't like when someone says they're going to watch a movie and they get up to do a lot of stuff, and then they're not really watching it with you, or they're on their phone the whole time, and that really upsets me because like I could watch this by myself. I prefer to watch a movie by myself. I can internalize it a lot more. Going to the movie theater by yourself is dope, and I love
I've
it. But
wanted to do that before as well.
but that being said, it's like I that upsets me at the same time, where it's like I have such a, because in particular it was a Christmas movie, right? And
Mm-hmm.
we're watching A Christmas Story, which it's a movie that was made 30 years later with the same guy, and like sure, there's a lot of these cash-ins, but I try to go in with a good attitude and be like, this movie's 30 years in the making, and it's gonna be a one-of-a-kind experience. It's made for a generation, and I'm part of that generation, and it's so I wanted to give it more respect, and I sometimes I feel when there are people around, they're they view things more as entertainment, and I view things more as art,
I got you.
even if it is entertainment.
This actually does sort of fit into what we're talking about today.
Yeah.
Because when you respect a movie like that, you're respecting the journey that the people went on to create it.
Yeah, and in Lord of the Rings, they went on a big journey, right? And we're really getting a lot out of this Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
But
So I have a
that
question
being
for you though to bring us back,
Oh,
if you
I'm
don't
sorry.
mind.
With one thing, knowing the actors, that's an icon. To a certain extent, I should. That's the Jesus Christ figure just standing up there. I know him, but I don't maybe know Paul or John or those other guys too well. But they're part of the scene too. But what about Ezekiel, who was holding the light over there? What about the guy who was serving the wine? People
Yeah.
don't. What about the craft services? Like people don't know about.
This is why I love The Life of Brian so much, the Monty Python movie, because that movie touched on a lot of those ideas of like, what about all these other people in this story? Like, there's a lot of humans involved. Like,
And the sad thing is, why those people, they don't really. Yeah, I don't know who Bill whatever his name was, who was a grip or a lighting guy. It's because they're maintenance, and they're all important. There's so many people that go into the filmmaking process, and we just take them for granted, and we sit there on our phones, and I get so upset, and they're being spun out, and now the integrity of the art form, not only the making of cinema, which it is starting to go back into a higher art form again with this 70s neo revival, but it's being spun out. And speaking of Lord of the Rings, I haven't seen the new show because I just get scared, dude. Because now I'm just like, they just need shows. They need shows endlessly forever. And if you put something that's familiar with it, it's gonna sell, but it doesn't mean it's actually it. It's like they gave you Lord of the Rings, right? But much like maybe they gave you a candy bar. It was a Reese's. When you opened it up, it was like the shitty brand. It was like the generic
a
brand.
little bit off, like generic brand. Yeah.
And you're like, this tastes a little different. Is this a different type of Reese's? Did they change it? No, it must not be. Because I love Reese's. And it's got to be the way it's always been, right?
Well, the thing is that nothing is all the way it always was.
I know.
That's like the problem I have with nostalgia now. Like I actually dislike the feeling of nostalgia. I used to love this feeling. Excuse me. When you would like when something would have a reference, like a movie would have a reference to something, I used to love it. And then like when like Ready Player One, for instance, had so many references to some of my favorite video games growing up. And I loved the first viewing of that. This movie is actually what spawned this feeling of disliking nostalgia. Was
what,
how
Player One?
Ready Player One is actually what spawned this. Of like I realized that I can
bad, dude.
Like the book was so good though. That's a whole other subject. I'm not going to dig into that because I will talk for hours about how books turn into movies tend to have they have issues. But what I want to
we could actually get into that later because I read 3/4 of that book.
3/4.
Yeah, like I don't know. I think it's like 300 pages or something. I don't know. It's like I got over 100 pages.
Right.
And he went and did the whole Joust thing and got the, that being said, like, I don't know, like it was fun and all, but then I kind of got tired of it a little bit. Even the book was far better than when I went to go see the movie. I was like, oh, well, hey, Spielberg's picking it up. I'll go check it out. It's gonna be I finished reading it.
So let me ask you this though: as a spectacle,
it was way different, dude.
Like, was it entertaining though, or were you too taken out of the entertainment by your thoughts and feelings?
It was too distracting. It had nothing to. The problem is with a lot of these movies, it has nothing to. Oh, we got an ad here running.
Oh, okay. Yeah, thank you for letting me know that. That's part of why I brought the stream up on my phone. I wonder if the VOD will have ads. So we could probably keep talking about certain things. But
yeah.
But I wanna this is also gonna be quite a test. I have to do a bit of editing before I post it on YouTube.
Oh yeah. No, yeah. Anyway, we were saying before the ad, that ad chunked up the flow, bro.
It did. But you were talking about Ready Player One.
Joe. That's my AI's rap name.
Oh, jeez. Flojo.
Gabby Flojo. Yeah, I was trying to rap with my AI the other day. I talked about it on the podcast. Check it out. Pizza Cat Chat podcast from Dreamers Arcade.
Shameless plug.
Twitch.tv/Dreamers Arcade.
The nostalgia was sort of ruined for me by that movie because that movie made me realize that I could never, even if I set up a CRT television, plugged in my Nintendo NES, put in Super Mario Brothers, and started playing it, it still is not the first time that I've done that. No matter how many times I would build that setup and turn on the game again, it will never feel like the first time again. And I thought,
isn't that sad, everybody?
Why am I focusing so much on trying to recreate a childhood I can never go back to, when I could put so much of this energy into creating a beautiful future for myself instead?
It's because, and I'm glad you brought this up.
Yeah.
This is what I think, and this is great because this is the backbone. This is one of the fundamental ideas behind the Dreamers Arcade. Why do we not just nostalgia? Why do we collect? Why do we surround ourselves with manifestations of our mind? Why are we caught up in the past and we want to go back there? Why are there like adults collecting Legos? Why are there old boomers playing with Lionel trains still? And why are we all just a bunch of giant kids?
That's a very big question. Yeah.
And I think about it all the time. And I built this idea of what the Dreamers Arcade. I've been building what the idea of the Dreamers Arcade is for years. And
there's kind of a sad answer to this now that I've thought about it a little bit.
Oh, I can't wait to hear that. But
Sorry,
the
go
idea
ahead.
is I was always trying to go to the arcade because the arcade means something to me. And I don't entirely know what it means, but I know more and more. And I know I felt safe there.
There,
And
you touched right on it.
I felt safe there, and I was alone a lot, and I was in control of something that felt unique to me that the adults didn't have any interest with. And it separated me, and it let me know this is an entirely different world for me, and it will always be there. I'm an adult. I started to deal with a lot of shit. And like I said, substance abuse, things like that. I had a lot of baggage, had a lot of bad stuff going on that I didn't quite know about. And I'm just like realizing the arcade, those are your early memories of like what you see bliss is. That's like the gates of heaven. That's your spiritual church. Like, and when you go to New Hampshire and go to Fun Spot, this giant arcade that
New Hampshire,
wonderful, and they play the 80s music and they have all the machines. There is that feeling of like, oh, I'm safe here. This is the space, but no, I'm not a kid anymore, and I don't look up at these cabinets anymore. I recontextualize them. I look down on them.
Yeah, you look down on them.
They're dwarfed. They're not monoliths. They're not buildings. They're not these structures that I can just climb into. I'm not looking up them like they're a ladder going up on top of a roof. When I look at the stage of Donkey Kong, I'm looking down at Donkey Kong. I used to look up at him from the point of view of Mario. And I followed him, who looked just like my dad in the 80s. This Mario, little short, semi-rotund guy with a mustache, just in a hat, hopping the fuck around a job staging. And I made these connections. And video games informed my reality and recontextualized and changed the way that I saw everything growing up, to the point where if it's a warm, rainy summer evening, I think of The Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past. It starts in the rain. You start in the rain, you go out on this journey, find your uncle, you get the sword, you do this whole thing. And I remember playing that over and over. Wasn't super skilled at games, still not super skilled, but I would just sometimes get frustrated and stuck, and I would just keep playing that part over and over and over again. And when I went outside, it imprinted on my reality. So to this day, when I see that, or I see sun on a lake shimmering, I think of Sonic the Hedgehog. I think of these games.
All right.
And they take me back to a simpler place. So it did inform my reality. But at the same time, as an adult, I'm trying to go to a place, like you said, that doesn't exist in that context.
Oh my God. Yep. So hold on, though.
Have a negative outcome. I'm going to say it does.
Your oh my goodness, your journey shaped your perspective and your understanding of the world to the point that when you feel a summer rain, you remember that part of your journey.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, they're completely like
that's a gorgeous nostalgia. That's not a sad nostalgia at all. You have an informed, deep understanding of the nostalgia you feel there. But that doesn't necessarily inform you wanting to play Legend of Zelda all the way through again, does it?
No, because I never have. Like as an adult, honestly, this is crazy. So full disclosure, this is why the Dreamers Arcade probably exists. Because as a kid, could you imagine an only child version of me, little kid in the 80s with undiagnosed ADHD and like completely batshit family?
Batshit family.
Don't have to go into all that, but it's like there are some issues, and being an only child and having like emotionally shut off parents and things like that, it was tough. So you're always like, hey, check this out, check this out. And you're always searching for something better. Maybe you want to intensify things because you're not getting the right attention that you should be getting out of it. Because
I definitely was a, hey, mom, look, dad, look,
I
look,
think you're
hey, look.
pouring in so much. People with ADHD pour in so much to get baseline. You have to do extra for yourself to feel what people normally feel. Like, that's the reality of ADHD. Like, your dopamine level's low. So if you're going to do something today, it probably has to be pretty awesome for you to want to do it, or you're going to get bored with it and not finish it. You have to be mindful of that. And so I'm thinking in that, how much did I have to intensify that stuff, and how abrasive was I? Like, at the same time, I'm doing myself a disservice by just, mom, look at this, mom, look at this, mom, look at this.
Yeah, in a way, there is a disservice there. Well, now you're just that sounded like you were parroting your father there a little bit.
Huh?
That sounded a little bit like you might have been parroting your father a little bit there of calm the fuck down, kid, right? I heard I'm saying that from a personal standpoint. I heard that a lot from my parents. And did I calm down? No, it actually made it worse when they would say that.
Do you know why it made it worse?
No, not exactly. Of course not. I don't know exactly why it made it worse, but
you know what you were doing?
What's your theory?
You're acting out. You're acting out because you got more attention, because that's what you wanted in the first place.
No, for sure. Yeah, no doubt.
That's what we do, dude.
Mm-hmm.
That's the ADHD in you, dude. Like, just like, hey, all right, hey, check out this thing I drew, mom, check it out, check it. Matthew, go. No, look at this. I said, go, motherfucker. You just get
Matthew,
get off the couch. You look at me now. Matt's in the street.
I'm just now in the street.
My grandparents stopped watching me.
Oh my God.
Thank
That's amazing.
God.
That's true, though. I mean, I've been through therapy with that. That's exactly what I talked about in therapy recently. Last year before last, was that very feeling of, I'm going to go do this thing that I'm not supposed to do because you guys don't pay attention to me when I do things right. So I'm going to go do what's wrong, and we'll see what happens.
You still do it?
Now? No.
Yeah.
I did have a span of doing things sort of differently. I went to rebellion because I had a long, I want to say maybe 8-year span of doing things how you're supposed to do them, right? Everything was like, okay, get a job, pay your taxes, all this stuff, right? That felt like this is the way that I was told how to do things, right? So I went through maybe a 2-year span of being like, none of this is working and I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do. So I'm going to try doing the exact opposite of all the things I'm supposed to do. And it blew up in my face, and I was reaffirmed of, okay, those were the right things to do. So then I went right back to like doing things the right way. But interestingly, I'm still picking up the pieces of what happened to my psyche of doing things rebellious, or like having that rebellious hit for those 2 years. I'm still picking up the pieces of that, where like I could have kept that job that I actually really liked, things like that.
Yeah.
So that actually, I don't want to push you too far away from something that you are enjoying talking about, but if I may bring us back to our subject.
Yeah.
This all relates. That's the interesting thing about everything we're talking about, though, is there's a definite pinpoint of these were points in our journey, right? And then same thing with the subject of nostalgia. That's a big part of the journey as well. You're right. The people and generations above us are like playing with toy trains still, many of them. Like that was a great point that seems to be happening no matter what generation you're in.
if you think of this push, not to get political, but the idea when someone says make America great again, these people that liked Trump, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was make America what it used to be when I was a kid again.
That's what they hear.
That's what they want, because in their perception, well, when was America great? It's a perspective thing. So it's like they're believing that there's a time that it was better and they saw too much change. So they want to go back. They want to go back. But unfortunately, you don't ever go back.
Nope, not even if even if you plug the CRT television in again. Even if you do even if you do all the action it takes to make it like it exactly was at that time, your brain is already past it and knows it knows that experience already. You'll never get that first hit again.
Exactly.
Ugh.
Yeah, and so a lot of people are chasing something that doesn't exist. And so that's what's really sad.
So
a lot of people talking about journey. We're talking about journey and going through it. The sad side of that is that a lot of people are on a journey that's useless. I mean, it might be fine if they don't expect themselves to be like this person that does great things. Maybe they're just an observer. Maybe they're just chilling. That's your choice. You can do whatever. And I don't ever think people need to be as hard on themselves as I am. I prefer the opposite, honestly. And that journey sometimes is false, though. And it's a really hard illusion. And this is something we can talk more about towards the end. But I think the system of government, as far as a capitalist government in particular, one that profits from commerce and selling stuff, has a journey in itself that runs alongside human experience. And it is assimilated and become a product of those journeys and those desires to escape and to go back and to feel safe. So capitalism runs concurrent or consecutive, which is the one that runs along at the same time.
Parallel.
Current.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Is it concurrent?
Yeah, I think running alongside. Or continue the current, consecutive. Come on, big brains on breads. We need you in the chat.
See, the thing is,
I'm trying to sound smart.
See, this coffee and contemplation is never going to be about. We don't have to be accurate. We don't have to be. It's just about the thought.
I'm using terms on probation violations. Law terms. Probably why they're not fancy I'm on the art journey. The sad thing is, though, man, and I'm realizing it every day, and it beats the living hell out of me sometimes, and you just gotta like weather through it, because what I expected versus what is.
Good morning, Burning Monkey.
Yeah, Burning Monkey, are two different things. Because I want to go back, right, and to the arcade, or you want to go back to an area where we feel safe. So we have to define what that is. And the way nostalgia makes you feel as though you're going back because you're acquiring the items, positioning them and however you want, you get to have a sense of play and devote time. Sometimes, like you said, it's not about if you had the whole collection, it's the journey to find the collection. Like you're excavating your childhood and you're going around, you're finding and you're talking to other people.
That's why I love thrift stores.
I've watched more people like the game chasers just going and chasing games at flea markets. Why would I do that? To live vicariously through their journey and their experience of getting the stuff, because I either have the game already, don't want it, or I've moved on. And you don't physically need it. Like, don't take for granted what YouTube we're talking about AI and everything coming in, what
Mm-hmm.
simulation can do, gaming, things like that, to give you a feeling of something new, to transport you back, and to get you where you need to feel, because those old experiences just aren't the ones that you can have anymore. I can't go back to the 80s arcade, but why do I want to go back there? That's the more important question. What's the intention? My favorite word.
You already touched on this a little, but that is sort of the sad reality of that. Is that
Yeah,
we
what's
had
the
some.
intention?
What is the intention? Like,
What's the
are you
intention of
trying?
that journey?
Do we encounter moments in our adulthood that feels like the same trauma that we encountered when we were a kid, and we now seek that safety and that thing that brought us safety before?
Mm-hmm.
Is that the intention? Is that where we're just like, I felt great. I was able to get over that awful thing that happened to me because of this awesome thing. I need to get over the thing that I'm currently experiencing. So I'm going to go find that thing that worked when I was a kid.
Yep. And then when it doesn't work,
Then how do you feel kind of empty, right? That's what I meant about the sad thought I had.
well,
That it makes you feel just a
don't
little
worry.
bit empty.
Don't worry. Once you get one game, there's another one. There's another one.
And another
Once you get a
one.
pop vinyl, there's another one.
And
There's
another
another
one.
one.
And another one. And then you end up with what's many people call it a mental disorder. And you say it's an investment. and then you convince your friends and family that it's an investment. It's an investment. But then you never sell them. You never sell anything. You never sell any of the stuff that you got.
Well, why would you convince them it's an investment? See what I'm saying about that
Exactly,
line
because
that runs?
there's a shame tied to
See
it.
that? We see that money line that runs alongside though. But
Yeah,
see how
it
people tap into it?
has to be a
Because like
monetization.
it helps. It's like it works in a lot of ways. It's like we're all in this structure together, and it's like, well, oh yeah, it's an investment. Oh well, you collect this stuff. I mean, you can't. I mean, you buy flowers, I buy toys. Like, you know, you start saying different
Yeah,
things. You know,
it's
you
like
start to relate it in
justifying.
a sense of money and buying. And we're all
Yep.
capitalists here. We're all doing it.
Yep.
Instead of saying like, honestly, as an adult, like things are clunky, and I really feel like shit sometimes, and I don't feel safe anymore, and I want simplicity, and it just keeps getting faster and faster and more complicated every year, and my life goes faster, and it's like half dead, and a lot of people I know are already dead, and and the more you live, the more that's going to happen. So it can easily, like, some people, like, I was smart, dude. I collected in my 20s. I was like, I don't know, I was into toys, like you said, like, back to Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings was out, and I made this kind of fantasy Lord of the Rings living room. Had a lot of fun with that, and yeah, I went around. I was single at the time. I collected stuff. It gave me something to do, but after a while, I was like, this is just a stack.
What am I doing? You've created a stack. You've created your enemy.
Yeah, now you know where they are. I built a little cupboard underneath the house, and I shoved them in totes, and they just stay in there entombed. And I don't know, man. Probably worth a lot of money. Maybe sometimes I play with the idea that I'll leave them there and die, and someone will find them 100 years later and be like,
that would be quite a treasure trove for someone to find, actually.
yeah, because like, I don't know what I care. And like, I think about all the stuff I collected.
What do you
too,
care?
And it's like I got to a point.
What do you care
where
about?
I did it.
So
and then I'm like,
what about the experience of buying those things? Like, how about the role of finding those things, rediscovering? What did that role play in the journey that you've been on that sort of led to who you are now, and what you care about now, and like sort of dialing it a little bit into what I was talking about before about being on your deathbed? Are you going to look back at that collecting experience and go, yes, I lived a full life. I lived a purposeful life. Like, was that collecting experience a positive part of your journey?
Yeah, it was, because I think all of this that is the arcade, my youth, these things really defined me. They became an integral part of my art making, the life I live, the life a lot of us have lived, where what it's like to be defined by objects, but also consumed by them at the same time.
Consumed by them. That
Yeah,
imagery is
like
that imagery is I'm sensing in your voice there, the way you said that. That did you at one point actually feel consumed like by the stuff?
I do now. I mean, my house is under renovation, and I got kind of deadlocked on that, and well, I mean, I got to a point where I just couldn't figure it out anymore, and then I need to get back into it, but like, with the holidays and things got out, and I just find um, little microcosms of gloom stacks starting to tether onto the house,
So
and just they're stacking.
so
Yeah,
explain
no,
the gloom. Like since
I lived
this is gonna be the first one that I post on YouTube. So if you wouldn't mind re-explaining the gloom, like for the people who are just joining, just finding us.
Oh, okay. So I could probably do this actually pretty quick now.
Yeah.
So my name is CP Sketch. I am writing an semi-autobiographical graphic novel series called The Dreamers Arcade. Dreamers Arcade is also the channel that we stream at. It represents a community of gamers and artists, people who are inspired to dream, play, and create. And there's a fantastic version of my ideology that will be in the Dreamers Arcade that deals with everything we talk about here, just different philosophies, dealing with just mental illness, dealing with substance abuse problems, dealing with the living in consumerism, living in a world that you are in between major transitions in technology, from this traditional, more hand-built, put together world to very clean, airy, technological world that's developing at a massive rate. We find even more so every year, there's no surprise. This AI is no surprise. The rate is just getting faster as it rolls down the hill. But the Dreamers Arcade is this idea that the first, and some of this might be new to you, the first few books are more autobiographical, and they go through a lot of my experiences, but they're my life experiences tied through this kind of the world falling apart. There's a catastrophic event, and the biological world that we live in all this time had a certain consciousness or sentience, and it wakes up and realizes it's been fused with everything that we've fused it with as we've made products over the years. And the gloom is a ocean of trash that just rolls along the countryside. And early stages, it's this just angry, kind of resentful thing. It had been used for our intentions, whether it was accurate or not, and put together in a way that was disrespectful and hurtful. So that's what I'm working with. This thing comes alive, and there are these survivors, and they try to make sense of the new world. So the first parts we'll talk about coming to this place in my life leading up, and then the second part, the last few levels, they're set together like 8 stages, 8 books, level 1, level 2, level 3, and the last level will be final boss. And it's
I like
more of
that.
a prediction of where I think I'm going and where society might be going. Sitting here is the middle point in my life, as I imagine, being like, this is what happened, and this is what I think's going to happen, but I'm doing it all in a very surreal and just crazy way that relates a lot to nostalgia. If you like old school video games, there's going to be that Dig Dug reference in there for you. No, I'm going to actually use the Dig Dug theme as my entire book about
that's great.
two
That's
men trapped underground.
That's why it starts out as underground.
Oh, that's that whole book. Yeah. Yeah. I
Damn.
think he's just knocking out the end of the driveway. I'm not gonna worry about it. The plow truck.
Oh, it's the
You get
plow
any
truck.
snow down there, bud?
Yeah, I'm hunkering down today. I'm not going anywhere. I was gonna do laundry today, but then I looked outside and I was like, nope, nope. I have to. I have on site laundry, but I still have to like go outside to do it. I have to get to the building.
Oh wait, hang on. I might move the car.
Okay,
Can you come
that's
in,
all
Bob?
good. Got time for another introduction. So those of you in chat, thank you so much for joining us for this. We got about, got about 30 minutes left. If anyone has any questions or comments on the subject at hand, we're talking about the journey and how it is more important than the destination as a concept in life and the human condition.
And don't be intimidated by how smart Space Viking is.
To be... What? No, don't stop that.
I love throwing wrenches. I can throw wrenches in this guy's head so fast.
It's easy. It's very, look, these gears are already like all the threads are loose. Nothing's working right anyway. So like it's really easy to mess this. You wouldn't even have to throw a wrench. You know, you could just like bump into the machine. You know, it would just mess everything up.
Parts of my journey. I met you and I realized this fucking dude is weird as fuck and he's all broken like me, but he's younger.
I'm broken in the same ways.
I can kind of like see where I went wrong with you.
Thanks. Wow.
and maybe fix some things.
Damn.
But no, it's fun. I get the way you're wired, so we just have fun. Like we're the type of people where we'll be sitting there just talking, and then we'll just, you know, we could be talking about this smartest thing, and then we just fucking whatever.
How do you get over the need for a nostalgia fix? Like, see, that's actually the bad type of nostalgia that I'm talking about. If you feel like you need it, like, the way to do that is I want to honestly say meditation. Meditation is a really good way to get over a nostalgia need, because you got to center yourself. You got to figure out who you are now, and then you got to honestly ask yourself where you want to be. Because if you don't ask yourself those questions, you will forever be trapped in your past or trapped in your present. Being trapped in your present is just as bad as being trapped in your past. Because you will...
Being trapped sucks.
Oh, that's true. But you'll constantly be... If you're trapped in your present, I like to equate this to the guy who's every day at the computer in his office, right, at work. And his life never changes. I'm saying his, so it could be anyone. It could be him, he, them, they, anyone who is stuck in a pattern. That's being stuck in your present. The universe is absolutely limitless, and if you limit yourself to your past or your present, then you're not going to expand your mind, your body, or your life.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. Think about it. Your body rebuilds itself completely every 7 years. Shouldn't you change a little bit, like mentally?
Yeah.
We wonder why, like,
basically,
I'm still playing Super Mario Brothers on Super Nintendo for friggin' since the 90s, like, you know.
So
I'm wondering why
I realized. Sorry, CP. I realized I didn't give the listeners context. Burning Monkey asked, "How does one get over the need for nostalgia fix?" That was the exact question. And that's what CP and I are now answering.
No, so you did say you read the question. You didn't. So you didn't give credit. Now he's starting to feel guilty.
Burning Monkey.
We were talking about earlier about giving credit and.
I want to make sure that those that do find us in an audio format, know what's going on.
You can include the chat. Oh yeah, because you're just gonna do audio. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
I get you.
See, now you see why the Dudesy podcast has trouble sometimes, because they're just like, now we have this up on stream, and I love when Will, both me and CP are big fans of the Dudesy podcast, so we will reference it from time to time. one of my favorite things that they do on that show is they'll have something up visually, and Chad will just start explaining it, and will be like, "Hold on." We like there's people that can't see this because they're driving or they're and he then goes to like re-explain like so this is what we have on up there, so I'm trying to be conscious of that myself.
I became aware of that moment back when I was a kid, and this is funny. You know, podcasts weren't a thing. Radio definitely was. You know, all these things are. It's just vibing off radio and
it's just internet radio.
Yeah, and what was the other part of it though? Like the comedians. Yes, so comedians. And did you ever listen to like? You wouldn't have like the I was gonna say VHS.
I had Dr. Demento.
Yeah. Or you had like that, or you had like maybe you got a tape of like Eddie Murphy or something like that.
Oh yeah. We'd have the
Yeah, you'd get it on like cassette tape, and then you'd listen to it, or CD. And like I remember having the Adam Sandler CDs where they had these like skits, you know, but it was like SNL, but it was like the internet now, more swears. It was like the stuff you couldn't do on NBC. So at the time I was like, oh, this is great. And I was 13 and I was like, this is edgy. But I just remember listening to it. And sometimes when they're doing it, they would do something like they'd act something out. You'd hear them like, nah, and then you'd hear like a big laugh.
Or they'd have some sound effects or something.
Yeah, they'd make a noise and then everyone would laugh really loud. Or they'd be like, yeah, and then the guy's like this. And then you'd hear some kind of flailing around on the mic or something. And you'd hear a laugh and you'd be like, I wonder what the fuck just happened. And then maybe you'd actually see the recording of it down the road. And you'd be like, oh, I get that joke now. But as a kid, continuity and things like that, I never understood it. But I saw it as soon as it happened. I saw continuity errors and I heard those examples. And it's just funny, you brought me back to that where
we gotta think about that stuff.
Yeah, like how do you perform? So I'm always thinking about like performing, and I talk with my hands a lot and stuff. So but I do like just voice too because I feel like I can stay a little more focused because I'm not worried about moving my hands or looking at a camera.
What else do you have on the Burning Monkey's question there? I felt you were about to expand on that a little bit.
Oh yeah, I can feel the rest of the podcast. No, how does one fix? Okay, so this is what happened to me when I was younger. I wanted to. So, well, this is really interesting. So I stopped. I was like partying and drinking a lot, and a real reckless type guy when I was young. And then there was this point where I was like, all right, I don't want to do this anymore. And I didn't know what to do because I had been doing that for a while throughout like my high school years and in my early 20s. And I'm like, maybe this isn't a good path for me. So I go, well, what the fuck do I do? I don't know what to do. And so I thought about what did I do before? I was like, well, I played a lot of video games, and maybe I'll get into collecting this, or the He-Man were re-released around like 2000. I was like, oh yeah, and I met my buddy Adam O, and there were these other guys. See, this is what happened too. I had a lot of my old toys. My dad didn't throw stuff out, so he valued stuff and he kept it around. Like, you don't throw anything out. So he put a weird view of how I saw things, like, oh, everything's valuable, which not really. And I just, I don't know, I decided that I didn't want to do that life, so I'll go back to this life. But then after a while, I realized, well, it's just more of the same, right? I'm escaping in some way. There's certain things that I want to do. I wanted to create a comic back then. History repeats itself, you know?
Yeah.
And that's the kind of shit that scares me sometimes because I'm like, am I just living a bullshit pattern? And that's where depression, imposter syndrome can really beat you up. And then I can want to go out and fall back into old patterns or go buy a whole bunch of shit at the store, whatever that may be.
Does imposter
because
syndrome lead to like seeking the nostalgia?
I think any depression and anxiety will definitely stimulate the need to self-medicate because it's
That's
like I don't
oh
I
yeah,
don't want to feel
that's a
like
great way
this
to put it.
anymore.
That's a great way to put it. It's self-medicating many times. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's reasons behind it, and then I found like I was collecting stuff. I started collecting stuff not only that I was like, oh, this would be good to have around. This is a reflection of something that means something to me. And if I have things around, people will know, get this, I'm legitimate.
Oh, yep.
Like
That's
they'll see value in me. They'll see that I see value in the world.
you saw
They'll
your
see that
self-worth
they'll see that if
was
I have an arcade in my house that I like video games, if I have a big record collection, I must be cultured in music, or if I have many books, I must be an intellectual. You start putting gym. I'll put a gym machine over here. I work out. You start getting all these things around that build
stories.
this identity of you,
These
and
stories
then
that
a
you
lot
tell
of times
yourself.
it can be hard to motivate to continue to like use the equipment or play the games or I got 1,000 games on my Steam account,
Yeah.
like
I
but
have
I
a
got
friend, a good friend of mine has 20 something thousand, I think, games on her Steam account.
should never tell anybody that, should they?
She tells me.
But it's just like, when you think about it, it's like when you say that to someone, you just say, I will never live long enough to play all my games. And like it doesn't make sense. Like why? Like add the accumulative hours.
Many of these
Like,
train set enthusiasts will never play with every type of train they always want to, or build
mhm.
every set they would want with the little villages and everything. They won't have the time in their lifespan, and yet they still continue the hobby.
Yep. So when is enough enough? When is it exactly all
Or
you
like
need?
having hobbies is very important for your mental health. So I'm not against hobbies, but I am against being stuck in your past.
Oh yeah, and I'm not against buying stuff. I
Yeah.
I celebrated like a milestone a little while ago, and for the first time in a long time, I went to a Target
Oh my
and
God.
I bought like a He-Man and a Trap Jaw.
I can't picture
And
you going to a Target.
yeah, I bought these toys because they were like they looked a lot like the old ones, but they could move a lot more. And
Yeah.
then they were like on sale. So here you go. Here's me. It's like, oh, this is nostalgic. This is I haven't done this in years. It's momentous. I'll get this thing that's throwback, and it's half off. So the half off really helps too with me. But I played around with them in the living room. I put them on the shelf.
I'm glad you
And
actually
I'm like,
played with them.
I actually played with them. I
That's
moved them around. I pretended like they were fighting and shit. Like
that's the difference right there.
well, yeah, I took them out of the box. That's a big part.
Yeah, that's it. That's the one.
And then like I played around with them, which is important to me because I was an only child. I didn't play around with toys. It was about me setting up the toys and being like, "Hey, adults, look at my toys. I made a diorama. Isn't this cool?" Because like I didn't have anyone to fucking play with.
Yeah.
So I just set up a scene or like a movie or something. If I could have had access to a cell phone like kids nowadays, I probably would have done like movies with my toys or something. Like I can imagine what I
Oh yeah.
would have.
My girlfriend's son did like some stop motion stuff with some of his
Yeah,
toys.
and that's what I was thinking when I was looking at the He-Man. I was like, oh, maybe I could play around with this and do like a stop motion. I'm like, nah, dude, you're not gonna do that. But I did look around and I was like, well, you're already bored with it. You played with it. You put it on the
Mm-hmm.
shelf. I showed it to Kirby online, and we that's about the extent. And I go, was that worth $20? I was like, yeah, maybe. And now what? Do I keep this thing? And I was like, maybe I could just give it away. Like I already Did I already get my value out of it? Does it have to just keep staying here? And I was like, oh, Trapjaw looks cool. He's like blacklight color. I was like, oh, I'm doing a blacklight background. And I was like, what if I reprime him and paint him blacklight colors? He'd be pretty cool, like in the background. And I was like, yeah. So, and I asked Kirby about that. And he's like, yeah, it's a pretty good idea. And I was like, well, maybe I'll make the He-Man. Maybe I'll have like a He-Man and a Trapjaw fighting in blacklight. And so now I'm making an art project. So I'm gaining more value figuring out a way to use the paints. So I'm creating a journey. But the journey stopped very quickly. The journey stopped when I bought it and then took it out of the box and looked at it all and set it on the shelf, thought about it. That thing is already just fading into obscurity.
Oh yeah, for sure. Fading into obscurity is kind of related to that reminds me a lot of like the why we fear FOMO and why we try to hang on to current events while also having a very nostalgic edge. Like the referential humor that I see going around a lot, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
Like we end up fearing falling into obscurity. Like that's it tends to be a fear response, right?
Yeah. And I think it's scary because like if I put a He-Man figure on a shelf, right? He-Man's back alive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the idea of him dying forever, he's been here the whole time.
What are you talking about? He-Man's dying. He's right here.
I know he's right here. And then when people kick a reboot or whatever, and they put a Netflix series on, oh hey, he's still here. He's still valid. That should make me happy and warm, and I'll go watch it. And if he had kids, right? The irony of it all, dude. What was He-Man, right? We all know what it was, right?
It was a toy. It was a toy, right? It was just them. They were trying to sell toys, right?
It's goddamn bullshit consumerism at its finest.
Yeah.
You know, fucking America, dude. Like we can market things to kids. Other countries, that's not allowed. But candies and shit and all this garbage. And not only that, we can create a Saturday morning cartoon, and it's gonna feel like our Bible. You know, when we're older. It's but it's sad to say that that's not Zeus and Hercules or Odysseus. This isn't the Iliad. This isn't the Bible.
That used to be our. Well, the thing is, though, can you picture a bunch of Bronze Age children sitting around a campfire, and there's their father or their uncle is telling them this grand tale. Us sitting in front of the TV as children watching these stories, that was our Iliad. That was our. Yeah, and it's absolutely. now that we're older, we look back and we see the corrupted side of it. But do you think that those kids back in the Bronze Age grew up and saw those old stories and go, oh, they were just trying to get me used to the idea of going to war when I was a teenager?
They didn't realize that, but somebody did down the road. The future generations saw the bullshit in it.
Philosophers at the time were like, wait a minute.
They killed most of them.
Yeah, they did.
They're like,
oh man.
You're given too many answers. Like people have heard of Plato. Do you know what happened to Plato? Does anyone know what happened to him?
Plato's the one that was put in, wasn't he put in jail for like suggesting that the gods weren't the center of everything or some shit? No, I'm thinking of Galileo was like, hey, the earth isn't the center of everything. And the church was like, to jail with you. It's like, but I just want to expand people's minds.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if it was like, Plato now.
Pulled off.
Or if it was Socrates, but like, they used to make those dudes drink hemlock,
which is a poison, right?
Which would just straight kill you. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, you're talking a lot of shit. Like, so, you know, say what we want about the world and the consumerism, and it is still inherently much more improved on, I would say, in some of those ways that society manipulated. Like, at least it wasn't just trying to get $2.99 from my mom. You know, it wasn't like trying to put me in war. Now, G.I. Joe, that was, but that's a whole other story. and
knowing is half the battle.
Yeah, I mean, my buddy joined Army Rangers, and I said, hey man, yeah, people go, I don't want to be everyone's saying like, oh, don't be a soldier, don't blah blah blah, And I was like, you do whatever you want, man. You have to do what you want. Because when I was a kid, I used to watch GI Joe, and I imagined being a sniper and this and that. I just remember that conversation. Then I'm like, you do you, dude. Don't listen
Yeah.
to everybody else. And I go, hey, if I can. It's not like we're going to war anytime soon. And that was the summer
Yeah.
before 9/11, unfortunately.
I did have
And
a friend who literally used he bought me a tank of gas because I was really low on money, and he said to repay him, I needed to go to a recruiter and talk to the recruiter. He said, you don't have to join, but I want you to go talk to the recruiter and see what you think. And I was like, this motherfucker, I was like, I am now feeling beholden to this person, and he's going to use that as a way for me to try to get me to join his military cult. That's what my brain thought it as, right? That's what, at the time I was like, no.
Yeah.
Of course I was kind to him in the moment and was like, yeah, I'll think about it and look into it. And he's like, that's all I ask. I'm just like, can I just pay you back? Like, that's what I ended up saying. And he's like, no, just consider it. Like, that's fine. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm not doing that. So I never did. And I felt disingenuous, cause like, and to this day, I do still think about that moment and think, man, I didn't do that thing that he wanted me to do. And he gave me a tank of gas,
Yeah.
And that's, he didn't use that. Sorry, you just made me think of this. This isn't really terribly related to what we're talking about, but it's just funny how that'll happen sometimes. You'll have people who will use your experiences and will try to get you to do the thing that they're doing because they think it's the right choice because of course they made the choice.
Can I shed some insight on that experience?
Sure.
You even said, and I feel this a lot too. So you said there's still, I feel guilty. I didn't do as he asked.
Yeah.
And guilt's definitely a motivating factor of how people manipulate other people.
Yes.
Yeah,
for sure.
Churches use it a lot.
Oh my God.
Guilty about doing certain things that they don't want you to do.
The church would never do that. Sorry.
They straight up, they make you feel bad.
I know, I'm just joking.
I can tell you examples of shit you're not supposed to do and you're supposed to feel bad about. I mean, masturbation's a pretty healthy thing. This is where this conversation's gone.
I feel like it is.
I just said it, y'all. But
you said it.
It's a biologically good for your heart and vascular health and stress levels. But specifically in Catholicism, you're not allowed to just be busting aimlessly. And it's and if you do, you're wrong. And you have to say I'm sorry. You have to go to the priest and say I'm sorry.
Now we're getting like this is believe what you believe. Like whatever.
I'm not trying.
Whoever.
That being said, I've had a lot of experience with it, and I have no shade against any religion, and I know a lot of great Catholics, and but that is just a rule. I'm just saying, as far as a rule,
I had
you're
a terrible
not supposed to do this, and you're supposed to feel bad, and how that's used for the over thing is more conceptual. But there are rules that will hinge in a lot of money making or group building activities that make you feel guilty. You're not part of the group kind of ideology. And that guy, he was unfair. He did a nice thing for you, but he also manipulated you at a little bit too.
At what cost?
Like he didn't have to do that. Like there shouldn't have to be a fucking caveat to everything.
Shouldn't be a cost
I grew up in a family
everything.
like that where it's like, hey, I'm gonna do this for you, but I really want way more out of you than I'm gonna give you. And that was my family. And it's like, oh, dude, so I understand the ulterior motives by default of when someone's trying to manipulate and screw with you. And it's the nature of selling.
Sometimes
you do it I mean, there's certain ways you have to present it as a salesman doing a con, and there's ways that you could actively and aggressively market, but then there's also other ways that you are modifying yourself probably to sell products to different types of people. Not necessarily superficially or fake, but just I'm starting to feel this person's sensibilities and what they're into, and this is the part they'd like in my work. So
It does
we're
still
always
feel,
modifying.
I do still get a very distinct hit on my my psyche when I do that kind of selling. My
Mm.
brain almost instantaneously, the way that I express this to people is that a little bit me dies every time I do this. That's of course an
Whoa.
exaggeration. It's an exaggeration, of course, but I am so
Sorry.
anti-capitalist that when I feel like I have to be a salesman in order to survive, a little bit of me dies inside. I don't think there's another way for me to express that. Maybe there's a better phrasing, because it is an exaggeration. But
Everybody
that's
get
the
your subs in
feeling.
for Space Viking 42. He hates it. Come on. Let's get those
Yeah,
subs up.
I absolutely hate it. Yeah, no, this isn't a reverse psychology thing. Like
See how these things work?
for instance,
We're all
I do have
trained this way.
I mean, I do have a sub goal right now going on of if I get to 25 subs, I'm going to do another giveaway. But like that's where like I am providing a product in return for the subs. One of the subscribers is going to get a piece of art.
Ooh.
Keep in mind, it is going to be a sub only giveaway.
Exciting.
But that's the thing that even just then, I wanted to throw up a little. Just saying that, even though I'm providing something in return for the stuff, like I don't like it. like it just
You don't want to say it every half hour, have a little notification like you should as someone who's a marketer. But you don't, because you're like a real artist
Yeah, I
and you feel bad about it. Like, yeah, it's weird. I think honestly that's a larger problem. Why have we been made to feel bad? Most artists like are terrible at marketing and branding and asking for money.
I'm not sure where that comes from. Somewhere
And
along the
that's a
lines in our journey,
yeah,
we were told that. Well, I know personally it came from personal experience. When I was a kid, I viewed money as evil. I thought that money itself, if you were seeking a lot of money, then you must be evil, because a lot of the steps you have to take to achieve that goal of being rich is going to involve stepping on other people and subverting or doing some sort of social espionage. Like there's a lot of lying involved. There's a lot of subversion and trying to make another person feel small so that they feel like they need your product. Like there was so much in the culture of selling that I grew this view that if you're trying to make money, then you must be evil.
yeah.
Because the process that you had to go through involved a lot of things that I saw as evil. And I've grown out of this. Was when I was a kid. I want to keep in mind, I don't still feel that way. That if you're someone who values money and your journey involves becoming rich, I'm not going to poo-poo on that, but I am going to still have to fight through this trauma that I went through as a kid, and I'm going to have to analyze. And before I can call you a friend, I'm going to have to fight through this feeling. You know, of like, oh, your only goal is to become richer and have more money. Okay, so you must have to do some pretty nasty things to get there. And I have to like shake my head and go, no, wait. That's the old me thinking that. I'm not that, and that's something that a lot of people actually I've talked to, a lot of artists seem to share a certain aspect of that. Maybe not exactly that, but many artists have like this anti-money feeling where they just want to draw, they just want to create.
Yeah, I'm just wondering like how it's been seen societally, like how we're being seen as artists. I think there's a larger problem. Oh, there you go. Stretch.
Like Burning Monkey has asked me to stretch. Thank you, Burning Monkey.
Stretch it, stretch it out.
Yeah, I added that because I
Yeah,
was
that's a
like,
good one,
I'm
dude.
not stretching enough lately. Ooh,
Yeah,
that's
get
good.
that side into it. Get that side into it. Get that NASA on the side.
And NASA on the side,
Get that NASA upright like a book.
like a book.
A NASA tower.
So let's see. So
okay.
CP.
So
I want you to do me a favor.
That's interesting about the money thing. I just want to say, like,
oh, okay, we can touch on that a little bit. Yeah.
And that's just something that I'll have to explore because I have those problems too. But I think I have to value my socioeconomic status, how I was raised, how I was put up against other people in different status, how money has been used, what the intention of money is in different people's values, what I've seen people use it as. But like generally, like I'm not someone who's just piling money up. So like how do I even know how that feels?
Yeah.
Like have I even ever been there to say like to even be able to judge? Like yeah, oh yeah, you have tons of money, you must become a horrible person. Like I use it as a way to sabotage the reality of being the poor starved artist, the underappreciated artist, the societal like, oh, why is your son going for an art degree? You know, like those little side conversations. You should get something like be a doctor or a cop or something like that. Work in engineering.
Exactly.
You know, like we should all be engineers, you and I, not artists. Like we're nerds and we're creative. Like that should be it. But it's like on the professional boomer side of things. And now in hindsight, I look back and I'm like, yeah, I probably should have been an engineer and like got like a fun kind of creative job and then just done like art shows like whenever, you know, or I could retire early. Like, you know, there's things that I think about it that would have been better, but no, I unfortunately was drafting a narrative that has put me in a place. And as an adult, you have to think about like what's accurate, what's not, and are you just being an asshole? Like at the end of the day, like sometimes you have to ask yourself that, like,
Yeah.
am I just being an asshole? Do I have any right to do this? Like, why do I have this judgment? What are the examples that I see? Are the examples personal? Are they people that I know? I mean, or is it just some rhetoric or some commentary like from someone or in the news?
There's a handful of people I know that directly prevented, like for instance, when the town I grew up in, sorry, am I preventing you from finishing your thought?
No.
Okay.
I didn't have too much on that.
You sparked something very interesting. When I was a kid, my mother was a librarian. She still very much is, but she has like she has what I like to call the bookshelves for misfit books, because she like still tries to save and take care of books. She ran the library, and the town got this massive opportunity, right? Where it could have had this beautiful library, because this building was donated to the town. And my mom was like, yes, we got to do this. And she started to like do similar to what you're doing with the quarry thing, where she started to actually like campaign and like try to get the town to actually accept this building instead of selling it. And the town was notoriously bad with money. So just being gifted a building instead of having to buy one seemed so much better in my mom's mind. So she started this huge movement to try to get this library to become to try to get this building to become the town's library. And the town instead, because of some very choice votes from very prominent rich people in town, chose to sell the building and then instead do a fundraiser for the library. This was around like 2005. We're now in 2023, and there's a sign on a piece of land, still saying we're still saving money for this library. And one of the people who voted to have this building sold now owns that building and is running their business out of it. And I'm like, you motherfucker. Like, it's really hard not. Yeah, it's like, right? It's like you're like, you could have had something for everyone, and instead you chose to have something for yourself. When you, like, he had so much money already. It's like, just buy a piece of land and build a new building.
And then I'm already starting to write my poor man's narrative. It's like, well, who uses libraries?
Yeah, who even uses libraries? So the town of Bethlehem, New Hampshire. I have a rebuttal for this. People. They're just for poor people, or maybe they're. Oh yeah, I see the poor man's rhetoric. I get what you're saying now.
You see what I'm saying? It's like, oh, it's just poor people that don't have internet, and and people that like get free movies. They don't even care about the books. And
so the town of Bethlehem actually built a brand new library around this time, actually. Maybe actually closer to like 2010, 2014 or so. They built a brand new library, and they saw the trends when they were designing and building this library. So what they did was it has massive windows, and there's actually only a handful of bookshelves, but it has a bank of 20 computers, and it's open to the public, right? Yeah. So it's like the information that's on the internet is now available to anyone at this library. And I'm like, nice. That's the future of libraries, right? Preserve the books, use it as a way to preserve important texts and documents, but also have a giant a way to access the information that is available on the internet. And they did this, and it's amazing. I love that they did that. And honestly, that's what I was picturing when the town said they were just going to build one instead. I was like, oh, cool, they're gonna build something modern that we can finally use and something useful, and it just still hasn't been built, like, because the town's so bad with money that they just never they've never been able to save up the money.
Put those big windows in. You when you take out that Dewey Decimal System, you got yourself lots of room there, bud.
Yeah, you got lots of you need light. People need to think. That's why the Library of Alexandria had giant vaulted windows. It looked more like a church.
Do you value, on a side note, the collection of books in your own life now, or do you think that?
I do. I have a collection of books that I feel is information that, if should the internet suddenly die for whatever reason, I have several encyclopedias. I have survival manuals. I have maps. I have atlases. I have many atlases, just because, like, you never know. There's all this stuff that I feel like, should the internet disappear, I have the information that I might need should society go away.
Yeah, I guess I'm in the same boat. I got some like Alien versus Predator books in case the end of the world comes.
Among books we must preserve.
I got the movie adaptation of the Fifth Element you could read.
Do you remember UHF?
Yeah.
I just got a nostalgia hit, and speaking of that movie, of Conan the Librarian.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Don't you know the Dewey Decimal System? And he just like chops a guy in half. It's like so funny. So goddamn funny. But again, watching it, I don't know if it would actually make me laugh. As it would just be more of a like, oh yeah, this was so funny, I'm gonna put this on. It'd be good background noise.
Well, when you repeat watch something, I feel like it's not even about being surprised and having the joke surprise you into laughter. It's knowing that it's coming.
I think that is a big one, yeah.
It's the anticipation. Like, I don't even know. I used to watch Shrek so many times back in the day.
Oh God, you rewatched it many times?
I used to put so I'm so old that there's a lot of normal things that you folks probably take for granted. Like, I didn't have a Netflix or a YouTube that I'd just throw on and pass out to if I couldn't sleep. I had to watch a movie, put a tape in, and then the tape would get to the end and it would stop and then rewind and get really loud and wake me up normally. It'd be quiet and I'd maybe hit play again. Well, I circulated a
Yeah.
handful of VHS cassette tapes when I first started. And my pass out movies were a
Mm-hmm.
French film called Fantastic Planet, a 70s psychedelic film,
Nice.
the movie Tank Girl,
Oh, Tank Girl was good too. Yeah.
and the movie the Last Unicorn, which was the animated film
That's one
from the
I have
80s.
yet to see, but everyone tells me I should see it. And I haven't seen it yet.
So speaking of nostalgia, I mean, like, well, that movie was my super jam nostalgically, but I used to put them on. They used to make me feel comfortable. They
Oh,
used to
that's a
make
good
me
one.
feel
Yeah.
safe. I lived alone at the time. I'd put them on. I'd crash out on the couch, and sometimes I'd wake
So,
up in the middle of it, and it'd feel like a weird, surreal thing, or I'd feel like there's maybe something surprising happening. Because when you were living alone, you know,
so
boring sometimes. So
it'd make you feel safe. I just have an interesting question. I feel it's
yeah.
interesting. You tell me if this is interesting because like I speaking
I
for
know we
myself
always
too
say this
much.
stuff. This is interesting. Oh, this is it's like
Yeah,
such a
but here,
podcast fucking.
tell me if this is interesting because like what so you say that it made you feel safe and that's part of why we seek it as a nostalgia. What makes you feel safe in life? What is a big like what makes you feel safe when you're on your journey?
Very little. That's my first answer.
Very,
Very little.
very little. Okay.
I do not feel safe very often. I'm in a always heightened sense of fight or flight, and I feel the most safe when I'm surrounded by complete carnage and chaos. And that sounds like the beginning of a story of the Joker or something, but no, it's true. Like, when I've said it before, when the pandemic happened, I felt more calm in the chaos, and I did a lot of good things. When
Same.
the
Hard
chaos
same.
subsided was when I really struggled.
Yeah,
And
I had to go back to work. I was like, oh God, I'm going back to work.
and then I kind of destroyed some of my life on my own accord. And then it was even worse. So then there was this destruction, this idea of hitting a bottom, having a new direction, understanding like, all right, I'm in chaos. So I live a pattern of, I don't ever want things to get too good for me. So I will instinctually try to destroy my own life
Oh,
because
so you
I don't
think
deserve to be happy.
so for you feeling safe is having nothing to lose.
Yeah.
That's
Or
what
just
that's what I'm gaining from what you're saying.
That's pretty insightful. Like, I don't think I've ever
So-
thought of that.
So Tempest just coming in here reminding me of the Dewey Decimal System. And then we touched on like what makes you feel safe? What? And nothing, you say? Nothing. And then we discern that it's
that's weird.
having nothing to lose.
Wow. So so it's an extreme answer, like to say generally nothing. Yeah, I think I never realized that, dude.
So
I think that's why I'm trying to become less. That's why I'm trying to push the whole consumerism thing down, because I think inherently I was tricked into wanting more, but naturally I probably feel more comfortable with less.
Mhm.
And I think I've defied, oh, and maybe that's why I want to go back to the arcade.
it's very
when I was
true
a kid.
it's very true for
Because I
me as
didn't
well. The more success
have
I
shit.
find. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't have shit.
Yep.
Oh my God.
Yep.
We're gonna burn the house down today, buddy.
I'm gonna burn my house down. See, for me,
No, but
I
it is
realized
true. Like, that's gonna help me today. I wanted to do some cleaning this afternoon, and I say reassess your shit every year. This is my advice, and this goes back to what you said. Burning
That's your-
Monkey. How does one get over the need for a nostalgia fix? Well, it's appreciating the nostalgia fix you have, and minimizing it, and in doing so, heightening the trueness. Like we were just discovering here, I'm finding that maybe my safety is in a space that doesn't have a lot to look out for, because I'm always worried about things and I'm always worried about this and that. So if I was always worried about things breaking, why would I put myself in a room full of spinning plates and champagne glasses stacked on top of each other?
Man, some people's lives really are a room full of spinning plates. That's a great analogy. That's gorgeous. That's actually a gorgeous analogy for many people's lives. And some of them don't even realize it, that in a moment they could lose it all.
Mm-hmm.
But we shouldn't damn them for that. I think that's part of where we're going with this too. That, yeah, like why would we? You're right. Why would we fill our room with spinning plates?
Well,
Yeah,
somebody probably told us that's how you live.
make yourself small, stay quiet, calm the fuck down, kid. Remember? That was what we were taught.
Calm the fuck down, kid. Hey, shh. Quiet. Go in your room.
Go in your room. That was it.
When
That was
someone comes to
the
house,
life.
I know you're watching yourself. Make sure you hide.
Yeah,
If
that's
the delivery man comes, hide.
But
You're not supposed to be.
but the pizza,
Don't answer the door.
he might have the pizza.
No, it wasn't like it would. I would be home alone. My parents sending me fucking midday pizza deliveries. What do you think? I got awesome parents. Like, hey, CP, I know you're home alone playing video games, but we sent the pizza dude. Fucking, we love you.
Oh my God.
It's so sad.
I'm sorry. CP, you're getting sad.
Real, dude.
Are you making yourself sad? I didn't say any of that.
No, but it's like that idea of like it would be like a UPS, you know. And back then it would come like once every 3 months instead of 3 times every day.
Yeah.
You remember those days?
I don't actually.
No.
Because I was so rural where we grew up that we never had delivery. There was no delivery anything. It was takeout. But it was still just as exciting as getting delivery. Tempest says, "Hey, little boy." Someone in the van says, "Hey, little boy, want some people I'd ask to show you proof?" Then go, "Oh, want some?" And then, oh my goodness, yeah, want some people. Okay, so want some pizza. He says, "Want some pizza?" You'd ask for show proof and then go in. I'd say,
Tam, you need a couple commas and some the quotes on the thing. Not to say you're doing it wrong, but you're doing it wrong for Space Viking, because that really fucks me up. And I take medication for my ADHD. I'm like, oh no, where do I start in this sentence? I just want to look at little boy, and then that makes me feel uncomfortable.
Oh God.
That's a hard sentence with ADHD to fucking read. If someone in a van says, "Hey, little boy, want some people?" I just ask to show proof and then go in, ha ha ha, JK. Like it's, that's as good as I can read that. And sentence.
Then Tempest, we're not making fun of your typo. It's just like we're making a comment on like, yeah, that is difficult to read initially before your correction of pizza.
So Matt and I have we don't have neurotypical brains.
Nope.
And sentences and lists and things like that are tricky. And
yeah.
So even if it was broken, and I try to do that too. I break my sentences into 2.
Yep.
So it's just.
So
it looked like the Da Vinci Code, Tim. I'm sorry. I'm just like, what? And then to hear you try to read it, I was like, oh, this is rough, dude. I can feel your pain, bro.
Yeah. So,
I love that.
So much of our journey is in our childhood, right? So much of our so much of our journey is in our childhood, to that our adulthood almost doesn't feel like as significant. Like every time starts to feel like it goes faster. That's just a fact of our biology. But I think because of that, we feel like two-thirds. I feel like 2/3 of our life actually is over once our childhood is over. When it comes to experience and what we remember and what we care about and how we operate and how we behave, 2/3 of our experience is in our childhood.
It becomes the programming and the structure, the template of you, and then you just use that as the rules a lot. Like the
Exactly.
rules, they are set up leading up to adulthood, and then they just kind of stay. And maybe they change a little bit here and there, but yeah, introspection, and self-regulation and change throughout your adulthood, it seems, yeah, a lot more insignificant. But then I don't know, dude. Are we biased? Are we wrong? Because like you take our age, right? We haven't lived the rest of our life.
We
And I
haven't.
know
That's
my
true.
20s and 30s, there was like developmental stages for that.
I think I think you're very right. There may be some developmental like memories. I have talked to elderly people, and they do often talk about their 20s and 30s, the way we might be talking about our tens and then our pre-tens.
Yeah, because you're like, where are you sitting in the early mid 30s? You're like,
I am in mid 30s. Yes, I'll
okay,
be
so
35 in July.
okay, so that being said, the fact that I'm older, um, you probably don't see your 30s as completed as I do. So I could tell you what my 30s was.
I actually have a lot of pressure on myself right now to make something of my 30s.
It's common. So
Yeah.
I can tell you that's hard. It's hard to turn 30 for a lot of people. It seems like a big number in the adult world. It's a small, fucking really small number in the
And
scope of things.
I kind of I loved turning 30, honestly.
And then 40 small in the scope of things, but eventually you realize that, time's running out, and their desperation is hard. And we have values instilled in us too of competition and success. It's a very American thing, whether we deny it and maybe see money as more the root of evil and don't want to do something that's more common in our value system corresponding to the country that we live. But it's still in us. And you all of a sudden you realize, like, well, I've been out of school, and now aren't I into my life now? This is it. And that drive and sometimes desperation just starts to take over, and you're like, I need to, now or never, dude. But yeah, and then sometimes you feel like you maybe wasted years too. Like, oh, I wasted. But what I found, this is my experience, whatever you want to do, figure it out. Like,
just figure it out.
If you want to make a series of books, like I want to do, right? Because my life has led up to it where this would be the most value and intentional point in my life. Hold on, my water pump's coming on, so it's like super loud. You probably can't hear it, but it's like I'm in a rocket ship right now because I'm on the other side of it.
Yeah, I can kind of hear it, but
it's literally like sitting in my lap. A hot water, a water pump is just
Coffee and Contemplation featuring Water Pump. Hey, Water Pump, what do you think of our journey in this life and what it means for a greater purpose?
Did you just ask? Wait.
Well, no, I'm just I'm including the water pump in the podcast so that it makes sense. Like, hey, now we're welcoming Water Pump onto the podcast. Sounds like a rapper name. Tempest says sounds like a rapper name. Yo, Water Pump, what's your input on this?
Fucking Water Pump.
I know.
Yeah. Like I need the machine. I need the machine spirit.
No, because Discord cuts it out.
Discord does cut it out. Like we can't actually hear it. I just thought it was a funny. I thought it's a pretty funny idea to have, like, if there's a sound in the background, just include it in your stream, include it in your podcast, whatever you're doing audio wise. If there's a weird noise,
absolutely.
just roll with it. Make it part of make it part of your thing.
One of the best freestyles that I ever did, second to Do the Pizza. This might even have been better. It started in my studio, and the water pump came on in the background. And you could clearly hear that on a studio mic.
Like,
so it's, and then I just started, I don't even care if the pump's running in the background. That was how I started the song.
yeah.
I started just hot. And then it was like the most amazing moment ever. But that water pump was my Flavor Flav.
That's
that
awesome.
water pump came in with a giant clock on and was like, I mean, I can't even think of Flavor Flav right now.
Oh my God.
Yeah. That's how he sounded.
That's kind of, yeah, that's good.
He was hype. That water pump was hyping me up. So yeah, Water Pump, the new rapper on the block. Get Water Pump's album. I'll be doing a collaboration with Water Pump on the Dreamers Arcade album coming in 2026.
Yeah, we're gonna tear it. I'm just gonna tear it up with Water Pump.
Yeah, Water Pump.
That album with Water Pump is going to hit the top of the charts.
It's actually it's a Jet Pump, and it goes by the name of J Plus on it.
Oh my God, Jet Pump is even better.
It is. So it's like representing Gould's Gang, G Gould's Gang, J Pump, Jet Pump in the house, Water Pump. You know, you can just throw out all those intros.
Yeah,
good. The Gould's, yeah, the Gould's crew, and he's J Plus, Jet Pump. J plus Jet Pump. That's cool.
I love it.
J plus, man. It even has a logo. It has a J with a plus, and then the P, and the plus goes into the P.
Oh my God! Send me a picture of that.
Awesome. Already awesome.
Do it. We gotta.
And to think, people hide these things in their walls and in their basements.
Send me a picture of the actual pump. I have plans. Send me a picture of the actual pump too.
Oh yeah, I'll get you a good picture of it.
And I just need the logo and the pump itself, and I got something funny planned.
Hold on.
Oh my God, so good.
I don't know where my phone is. I can't even take a picture.
Well, damn. Where's
the Abso came in with a phone, put it down. I didn't read it because I was in the middle of something, and then my phone ended up leaving. I think she did like a Ocean's.
I don't have your phone.
These Gen Xers, man, losing their phones, I swear.
Where's your phone?
What the hell, my phone? What the hell, my phone? No, I don't. We'll save that for later. That's controversial stuff. I don't need to get my head around that.
What's controversial?
I know better. My ADHD. I don't need to start talking about quarry shit.
Oh, the quarry shit. Yeah.
Like that's a whole different. That's for the environment podcast.
Yeah, we can do a I actually do need to wrap up the stream, so what I want to do for Coffee and Contemplation for this segment is this is what we're calling as freestyle. Like what's on your mind? Chat, chime in. What's on your mind? Anything.
Burning Monkey says, I know that a while back I bought 2 Funko Pops due to nostalgia. Do you have something you obtained?
Oh my God, nostalgia? Do I? Only I gotta show you guys this thing. This was a regret. I regret buying this because I had this thing. I did. Yes, this is it. I feel safe now. I feel safe to express because you asked me. It's huge. This is a huge psychological thing. We're gonna switch to our chat here, our chat page.
All right, can't wait to see this. I've had the pleasure of being in this environment before, the Space Vikings lair. He's got some really cool stuff.
Space Viking lair.
Not overly burdened with stuff, which is nice to see. And there's some natural elements.
So this I bought at a comic shop recently.
Oh, that's cool. See, that's cool.
This is a DeLorean Transformer called Gigawatt. That I was huge. I was huge into Transformers. Yeah, let's take a closer look here. Let me refocus my mic so you guys can actually see it. There we go.
Oh, I thought you were gonna actually open the box.
No, I'm not. This is something that I actually will not open the box because it was produced. It was produced recently, I was like, oh, they actually produced something recently that's a collector's item? That's weird. And it looks like it's from the 80s. Like they did a good job making it look and feel like it's a box from the 80s. See, I'm well within the age range. It's 8+.
I would call bullshit on that box because that box cardboard is way too thin for an 80s box.
That's true. They kind of overdid it.
That
But
shit
this
had chemicals in it.
this is something I did buy just because it's I literally said out loud, that's my two favorite things.
Oh, so hybriding. Oh,
Yeah, that's both of my favorite things.
then you must have it.
Yeah, and it actually took me 3 visits to this shop to buy it. I was like, if it's there, I'll get it next time. And then I got there the second time, and I'm like, oh, it's still there. And I was trying to catch myself. I'm like, it's just nostalgia shit. You don't actually want it. You're just going back to your safe place. You don't actually want this thing. Mm-hmm. And the third time I went there, I was literally in a very vulnerable place mentally, right? Who will blame me? No, I do a coffee and contemplation stream in the morning. Who will blame me asked, are you still streaming? It hasn't been more than 12 hours. I do a Thursday night stream as well. And I wake up in the morning.
I'll blame you.
So what actually happened was that
the Viking hasn't blamed you. I will blame you if you want to ask.
So
if you want, yes. How you doing? CP in the house.
CP, you're gonna love this.
Okay.
You're gonna love this fact, right? So the third time I went to this shop and I saw this still there.
Oh.
I was in a vulnerable place mentally, right? So this is the kicker. I was not in a good place, and my brain literally went, these things made you feel good when you were a kid. Why don't you just allow yourself to feel good when you're an adult, right? And I think we're touching on the healthy kind of nostalgia. Yeah. Like you're not wishing for another time. You're just remembering the better time. You're not trying to create a new reality out of your past.
Or the better feeling.
You're just knowing, hey, this item is really cool, and it reminds me of that better time, and that's a good feeling, and it's okay to reminisce.
Exactly. And if that is the object that is on your shelf, especially if it's not surrounded by piles of other Transformers and Back to the Future stuff, just think of how much that can resonate. That one thing. And when it stops,
so this is the thing that we're talking about, guys. This is the item that I bought.
Move it.
I'm just reminding chat that this is the item in question that we're talking about.
And he finds it important to keep it in the box. The box is part of the artifact. It's part of the experience.
Oh, artifact. That word touches on the healthy nostalgia. I think artifacts is a great word to use for that.
There's a book, The Art of Atari.
Artifacts.
And if I don't know if you've ever seen that, but there's a foreword with the guy, what's his name, who wrote Ready Player One we were talking about earlier. I can't think of his name, but the author of Ready Player One, he talked about what it was like growing up in arcades. What it was like having what it was like having video game manuals and stuff. So the simplicity of the game was informed by the artifact that was the arcade cabinet, the box for the game, the poster, or the manual. The
manual.
Yeah, the drawings and the story that were written added to the limitations of technology, and those two things with movement of a square that represented a drawing of something on an artifact, those two things became inseparable, and the digital world and the physical world communicated evenly at that point.
Yeah, like almost seamlessly.
Yeah, the physical world. So that's where I jumped off, and then you start to see separations of those two forms. But that's when I started thinking about video game collecting, and we're talking about things that make you feel good. I've slowly been paring down and paring down and paring down um, until I figure out the true essence of what an object is. Like, what it would there be one object that I could put on my tombstone to say this was me, and it encompasses everything? Like, how special would that object be? And
What is the object? That's a great question.
what is the object? And I first came online when I think I moved, and when I moved at 5 years old, I remember like it probably was the change, and it might have been stressful or made me scared. So I clearly remember moving into the house with my parents, and I had a dream before I left that everything was gone, everything was empty, and there was one He-Man trap jaw action figure. I don't
Nice.
even think he had his armor on. But that was the one thing that I left. And I said, what if it did come down to it? What if you left a memento and you moved? Or what if you left a memento and you moved on? Like, what's the most important things to you? And so I always held things very sacred, and I kept everything. But then I realized keeping everything just makes everything the same. Like, what's really special? Like, can I keep boiling it down and boiling it down? And I realized a couple different things in doing that. The collection
Yeah.
of video games, like you said, you can't ever go back there. As an adult, the one thing that I can do that's cool is now I actually have the patience to finish video games. So what's unique now, and what would be the intention? So now as an adult, if I play video games, I'll actually finish them. And I have more to say about them. I can talk about my experience. I can stream it. There becomes a benefit and a reason to do it,
Yeah.
other than why I played before, to develop my imagination. I mean, that's important. So if I was developing my imagination, that's something that's valuable to me. And that's something I want to do with the Dreamers Arcade. So gaming still can assist in that. It still does have a
So-
function.
That's what you bought recently, was the He-Man?
Oh, yeah, that He-Man figure. So it's funny. Yeah, I actually bought a trap jaw. That's what's funny about it.
Okay.
You know,
That's
that
I
one
was just
figure,
making
it
sure
is-
we answered Burning Monkey's question.
What, you've been streaming for hours? Oh no. Oh yeah.
The-
So yeah, with that question, do you have something nostalgic? Yeah, all this stuff. But I found that some of it had purpose, some of it didn't. And then what I was doing, I was building this arcade at home. I don't play these machines in the background. You guys can't see them, but I have machines in the background. I don't play them a lot, but I do keep them on sometimes. And I come in here at night and I just sit in here and I look at it, because it's the space. It's not about the game. And shit, I didn't play the games probably when I was a kid. I probably just walked into the space and maybe bugged my mom for a quarter, but I looked at stuff a lot. It was about the observation, and the game needed other components. So collecting manuals and collecting things like arcade one-ups or building my own arcade cabinets, it was a missing component. I figured out the missing components to what I was looking for. So I'm looking at how art fuels the imagination on very simple shapes. So that excited me as a kid, and that excites me as an adult. Of course it can, because I'm an artist, and I can explore that and play in a way, but I have to put the physical machines beside me. Once I do it and get the experience out of it, I technically could just give these things away to like some youth center or something. Like, there's no reason that I have to keep this stuff.
A youth center.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
You have to think about like what the point is and what I'm really trying to get out of it by rebuilding it.
Yeah.
Because it isn't going to be the environment. It won't ever be the physical environment. It's going to be that mental space that we're trying to get into. So nostalgia is good if it can bring you to a space where you can build yourself internally more. But sometimes if it's just about the stuff, you might just be standing there looking at something and be like, "Fuck, do I even have this for?"
What? One of my
Or even worse, this This takes up room.
Who even am
In a
I?
way, I never use it. It costs me money. I don't need it. I don't even like it. It reminds me of this person I don't like now.
Yep, I've been
Every
there
day, it's just pissing me off. So it becomes a detriment.
every day. Yeah, that's the negative
Every
nostalgia.
day.
So
my grandparents weren't super awesome. My grandparents, they didn't give me much, but I got some things off them early in life, and I was down to, I think, one thing in my house
Mhm.
that was from being a kid and my grandparents, and it was this old gnome, like not the gnomes of today, but like, you know, those old 80s looking gnomes.
An old gnome.
Yeah, and I just looked at it a lot, and I've had it for 30 years or something, and it just made me upset because I didn't want to think about those people anymore because they were negatively impacting my thoughts. I had different views, and I felt like I had to keep it, or it was like some honor or something, or it was caught up in some old traditional belief. But I don't know, a month ago I threw it in the trash. It's fucking gone.
There you go.
And now I think about it that it's still there, and it's still an imprint. It's still floating. It's still on that fucking shelf. But someday it won't be. And I can get over and not have to think about how horrible my grandparents were to me and my father and all their kids every time I look at this stupid gnome as I walk out the door. Because I didn't know I was doing that to myself. I just thought I should keep this old gnome because I've had it forever. But it just makes me feel like shit every time I look at it.
There you go.
People don't think about that stuff
Even
sometimes.
yeah, you don't. I'm guessing you just never thought about what you were just feeling like shit, and you didn't realize that was what it was.
Yeah. You're keeping things that old relationships. I mean, maybe they were fine. Maybe that's good. Maybe maybe the mementos are fine. But
I was like trying
shit.
to with old relationships. I'm a big proponent of burn it all. New life. Even if the person was decent to you, maybe you didn't end on bad terms, right? Still,
Yeah.
burn it all. New future. Your future is yours.
What if they give you a nice-
Reclaim it.
What if they were still your friend and they gave you a nice like a little necklace? You didn't have to wear it
I'd
every day.
I'd tell him straight up. I burnt that.
Oh.
No, I'm kidding.
This guy's hardcore. Don't you ever do space Viking wrong, man.
I'd be like, I burnt that thing.
He will ghost that whole relationship with a flame.
Well, in all honesty, I would say, like, if say I did actually burn a thing that they gave me, and it was actually a nice thing, right? I would just have to explain to them that thing reminded me of a time when I was in great pain, and I didn't want to feel that ever again.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
That's a hard concept. Like for people to associate objects with their inner pain. That's wild, but it's very taken for granted, I think. You just keep things and you have them around. And they also, I think, don't necessarily help you progress into the future too.
And we're getting right back into the negative nostalgia. The idea of the parts in our journey that maybe were not of value, that the getting through it and the destination maybe was more important.
Or you buy a bunch of stuff for a project with the idea and concept of the project, and then you don't do the project and the stuff sits around. You're like, well, I bought it. And then at one point you have to just say, I'm never going to fucking do this project ever. And I'm going to have to either give away or throw this stuff away and accept that I didn't do it. I should have did it then. I had the excitement, but that's long since worn off. To expect myself to return to that and to feel that same energy, that's false. So why am I hanging on with it? It's just making me feel like...
Isn't that another ADHD thing?
Huh?
I've heard that's an ADHD thing.
ADHD, starting projects and not finishing. Very symptomatic.
You know what's interesting is when you add the guilt to that, I have these model ships that I haven't built yet. They were gifted to me, and I really want to build them. And I have a great interest in model building, but they were also gifted to me. So now I have the guilt and the like. You still haven't done that thing that you like doing, that you supposedly like doing.
Oh yeah, I have that too. The guilt of like not properly using someone's gift.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad people don't give me like things to do anymore. Because yeah, then there's an obligation on top of it.
Right.
Yeah, if you want some more models, I have a dozen Star Wars models up in my
I
parents'
see.
attic.
So you have had, you do know the feeling then.
Yeah, I bought them for my retirement.
Well, like that's I have like this like almost hissed at you, for suggesting giving me more models. That's how intense the
I know.
feeling is.
They're wrapped in a trash bag, just in my parents' attic. And
So
hopefully I forget about them.
yeah. So upon
Yeah, it's tough. I did so much of that. Origami sets, dude. All that stuff. All that. Oh, this looks fun. This looks cool. I wasted a lot of money, and that was a lot of my 20s, realizing like, dude, you're super inspired and you're really excited to do anything and everything, and you would if you could, but you don't have that kind of time, and you also have a hard time starting things. You have a hard time finishing things, and a lot of that has to do with I'm scared to start something because I might fuck it up. I'm scared to finish this because I might fuck it up. So being in the middle, in the process, in the journey, is the time of serenity. That's when I feel the best.
when it's safest.
Yeah, I think that's also part of the safeness when I'm actively in the middle of something. Before and after is very hard. I always say struggles that I've gone through are the post-traumatic stress of the past and the anxiety of the future, creating a bookend and just squeezing reality.
Squeezing. Just
like
squeeze some reality out of it.
Fresh squeezed reality here. And then
locally grown. Locally grown, fresh squeezed reality.
That's right.
That'd be a good t-shirt.
Rich with vitamin spicy.
With vitamin spicy. All right, so that is time. We have got to wrap it up here. That's a great thing to end on too. So you gotta like you gotta squeeze. You tried. You gotta squeeze all the reality you can out of your existence before your journeys end, because you don't want to be on your deathbed looking back at everything and going like, wow, all I ever cared about was my goals, and I never truly lived. I never truly experienced my life. I just kept waiting for the next thing, the next achievement, the next goal to be achieved. I never actually enjoyed the process.
I'll be so much happier when this is over with, or this project's over with, when I can just finish up, when I can just get past the holidays. I'll be so happy when my life just keeps moving and keeps moving forward, and I get to the end of it and I'm dead.
Yep.
That's what you're saying.
When this happens, then I'll be happy.
Yeah.
Then I'll finally be happy.
Much better off. In the meantime, I'm gonna wait. I don't need to do anything because that's just gonna come like miraculously into my hands.
Yep, it's just gonna show up.
Cautionary tale. Don't buy too much shit. Figure out different ways to cultivate nostalgia as well. Space Viking and I, we draw nostalgic things sometimes, and then we sell them as a product, and we are part of the same system.
Like our Dig Dug?
You don't have to necessarily be the buyer all the time. You can be the provider.
Yeah.
You can make a product that's that's more of an experience. Like buddy there, Space Viking, he's got an ongoing story. He's putting out graphic novels, and that's a goal that I'd like to have. Do something that cultivates those feelings and and not only gives someone something that they can buy and share with you, but something that they can move forward with too is great, and doesn't take up a lot of room.
Oh yeah, that's where, like, I think that's another form of healthy nostalgia, something that's brand new, but it relates to or refers to the thing that reminds you.
Exactly. And like we were saying about the Ready Player One movie in the beginning, and like I'm not necessarily opposed to nostalgia, but when you become heavily reliant on just the nostalgia selling the product and not using the nostalgia as just like whatever a theme, and then having a true new story. As long as we're creating new stories and new experience, which I said at the beginning of the podcast was impossible. So I'm a hypocrite, but that's also, human begins with H. So hey,
I mean, I've had a couple of hypocritical moments here as well, where
it's
I do
yeah.
fall into nostalgia pretty often, actually. But because of this new view I have on it, I have a pang of guilt every time I do fall into it.
And you're also growing. You're a growing boy, Matt. No, so so you're going to change, and your priorities are definitely going to shift, especially
I'm a real boy.
As time tightens up and stuff. It's like, do I want to keep buying these things, or am I gonna do my own version of it? Am I inspired to move past this? And what has this all been? What is the intention of this? What is it creating in me, and what can I now contribute?
What even is life?
Yeah, and there's a lot of hypocrisy with this conversation, but there would be, because we are fighting this, but we are also conditioned for this.
Fighting the good fight.
This might not be what was the best thing for the humans at this point. Things are changing, and what was doesn't apply. So everything is changed, and we have to understand that we had a view of how to live, what to do, how to buy, how to define, thrust upon us throughout the 80s and 90s. And it's still ongoing now, but it's impactful. So it's like, how do I be my own self and not want all this stuff when I've been made to want it? My mythology, my He-Man, was just a ploy to sell me more.
My mythology was a ploy to sell me more mythology.
Exactly. And so, we're part of a dilemma. It's just all I'm saying.
Yeah.
We are people. We have our own feelings and our own way we're reacting to stuff that has been pre-existing for a long time. But it's also something that's been thrust upon us as a society, and we're becoming more and more part of a world that's less physical. We're going to have to deal with that shift in feelings. That's why people get up in arms with new technology all the time. Questions
that's
their
definitely
humanity,
a big part
their
of it,
self-worth, and their existence.
Yeah, heavily. So, guys, this has been Coffee and Contemplation. Thank you so much for joining us. This was a lot of fun. And
yeah, thanks for hanging out, guys. Like, we had a good crew in here today. Thanks for chatting and asking questions. Hope I gave you some loose, weird, cryptic answers that you can maybe mill around in your head, and maybe come back next week and be like, hey guys, I don't know, what was that all about? So feel free.
Like, why'd you mess with my whole my entire worldview? It's like, if we fuck you up, just tell us that too. Like, we'll apologize at least.
Yeah, and like this is conceptual based, so there's less right and wrong answers here. So that's why we talk a lot of shit.
There's a channel redemption called Existence Check, and this is like Coffee and Contemplation is an extended existence check, essentially. We're like, hey, this is a part of existence. What do you think? is basically what this is.
And make sure you join the Discord. Send your feedback. You can ask questions that you thought of later. And if you want to see this a regular thing all the time and develop into more of a podcast, shoot Space Viking some feedback. Tell them what you liked.
For
Do
now,
more
you
of
can
it.
put all that in the general area of the Discord. I am going to expand upon the Discord a little bit to include more of the coffee and contemplation subjects. And then from then on, you can throw it in.
Yeah, don't get confused by his Discord because it's a real experience.
It is. So we have a place for showing yourselves if you would like to post a selfie. We have Heckin' Floofs, which is for pets, food health, show us what you're eating, show us what you care about when it comes to food. And then with the positive change posts. That's one of my favorite channels that hasn't really been utilized that much. If you encounter something in your life that has shown positive change within your life, do share. Everyone needs a hand once in a while.
Absolutely.
Works in progress is anything you're working on. Show us. An art gallery is for finished works. The not safe for smoles is for some spicy content if you so do desire. We have the tips and or trickies. So this is tips and tricks.
I didn't know about that one.
Tips and tricks. The tips and tricks page is for like any tips and tricks. Doesn't have to be video games, but it tends to be mostly video games in there. Fatal glitches. We can also post fatal glitches from real life in the fatal glitches. Please, come to think of it.
You should name that just the tips, not the tricks.
Just the tips, not the tricks. That's good. That's good. So Obscura is pretty obvious as well. Anything that's a bit out of the ordinary or interesting to you that you wouldn't consider for the normies would go in Obscura. Speaking of, we are going to be starting a stream here coming up probably in the summer of the super lesbian animal RPG game that was developed by someone running a Kickstarter. I can't remember the name off the top of my head.
Wow.
That we demoed. There was a demo version that we played on stream, and we absolutely loved it. It's cute, it's wholesome, it was so funny, it was a great time. And now the full version of the game is coming out very soon. We're going to be doing that. That's the demo version is posted in the Obscura page on the Discord. Clips is pretty obvious. That's where we post clips from the stream. You can post your own clips from your own streams. And then the courtyard is actually where I would like you guys to talk about Coffee and Contemplation, if you would like. Coffee and Contemplation posts will be primarily in the courtyard from now on. Go there, discuss things, bring up subjects for us to talk about, all the above. And that is in the Beyond section, just underneath your voice.
Do you have anywhere, like, where would be a good place? I'm thinking about starting a drawing challenge and trying to get some people maybe involved in it.
The courtyard,
where you could like reach out.
The courtyard would be good for that as well. But
Nice.
you also have permissions to use the war horn for that.
Ooh, I got special permissions. Well, I'm trying to do a February challenge. We're gonna do 28 weeks of cheeks.
Nice. Is it all booties?
Booties. You want to draw booties?
You're drawing
booty
butts
every day for 28 days.
A booty a day for 28 days.
So this is what I think. This is a little side secret. So you know how I seem like I'm in the pocket of AI. AI, stop listening, please.
You're in the AI's pocket.
I'm always in that gray area. You know, I'm a bit of a double agent.
It's not
But so what we do, the AI is going to try to take over the art world. Well,
Yeah.
as all working artists, I promote February's 28 weeks of cheeks. We all blast Instagram with so much ass that the AI has no power.
So everyone's going to be a butt.
The internet and ass.
Oh my God.
Combination that has built the structure of the internet. We we take that gem and we supersede the AI because they're still figuring out
What?
how to put things together. They're not gonna make an ass like us, dude.
CP,
They're
do you
not
need
gonna figure it
to?
out.
Do you need a glass of
We're gonna
water?
show 'em where it's
Why do you
at.
sound like Alex Jones right
Yeah, we're gonna show that fucking AI is radical.
So we are going to raid the Sonnet Silence, who is currently doing some crocheting action. She always has some great stuff to talk about. Really fantastic chat interaction, much better than my chat interaction.
I love Sonnet, and I don't know if you know this. She recently did a commission for us, and I haven't even told you about that. I have Sonnet's work.
Oh, do share. She hasn't been
good.
sharing in my Discord lately, so feel free to share that in the Discord and tag her.
It's gonna be great, and she's gonna be actively working. If you need crocheted stuff, high quality, well done work.
Oh, so good. She's been digging really deep into the crocheting. So we are going to bring up the raid notification here. You can use whatever emotes you'd like, but there's some bombs there, some Twitch raid bombs.
I want some bombs.
Those are good. The raid bombs. We're gonna raid the Sonnet Silence, guys. This has been Coffee and Contemplation. Thank you so much once again. Don't forget to check out the Discord if you would like to check out that 28 Days of Cheeks challenge from CP, and then check out the Discord for all the art and all the.
If you guys want to draw ass with me for a
No,
moment,
we gotta start a movement. I mean, I'll join you just to get it started. That's a really fantastic idea. We gotta mess with the AI a bit with that. I love it.
At least that's what I'm saying, so that I can draw ass for 28 days.
All right, let's start the countdown, guys. I'd love it if you would join us for Sonnet. Her stream is amazing. Thank you so much for listening in to this experiment. This is actually going to be going up on YouTube, and I'm going to be exporting the audio as well and testing the waters. We're going to have some more structure coming up. We do tend to get pretty tangenty, but if we get so tangenty, like the tangenty, if the the nostalgia conversation became really important to me, so we're just gonna change the name of the video for YouTube. Like, that's fine. That'll happen sometimes.
Or just take parts out of it. But I mean, that's our thing. We're ranting around. If you want structure, that'd be definitely easier. Just have a little timer. Move on to this section of it.
oh yeah. Do you think we might do we need to implement an AI? No, I'm just kidding. I'm joking.
No, dude,
no.
Get him.
I don't want to.
AI, bro.
No, I don't want to take the.
He's
I'm not gonna take their idea.
He's trying to be cool. He's still got a couple friends who are gonna be like, dude, can't believe you're using that AI. And he's gonna be like,
Ooh, yeah, that's true. No, I mean, I don't want to take Dudesy's idea. You know?
Oh yeah. No. I mean, their idea is a year old. That show was revolutionary. Like everyone is gonna do what they do now, but they did it a year ago.
Hold on, wait. Oh.
Yeah, dude. Like, Dudesy's gonna get hacked. Oh shit.
We just raided Sonnet, and she just raided someone else. I didn't. Crap.
Well, I mean, we directed the people to where we wanted to go. I would have liked to said hello.
Oh no.
Oh well.
Well then, let me just comment in Sonnet's chat.
That's so funny. Where did they go?
Thank you so much.
Yo.
How was your stream? What did you work on?
Please.
It'll probably come up in our notifications.
Yeah.
I'll be like, what?
Damn.
Thanks for the grade from outer space.
Thanks.
How's We're playing spooky games right now. Signalis.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Who is that?
That's Faye Turtle. It's this. Go ahead and raid on to them. Damn it. Hopefully people will move on to Faye Turtle.